Jimmy Anderson gets to play his 150th test for England today. Whether he'd have any other bowlers around him to keep him company was in doubt until this morning, and England have finally gone in with 5 seamers. South Africa, for their part, are an enormous transition. They named a squad with a potential 6 new caps, and coaches of various types have been materialising on an almost daily basis. Some of them only a little over 40, might fancy a game themselves. Next one up will be Colin Blander's fielding coach, had he not died 18 months ago. Still, what about Jonty Rhodes? Who knows? Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket, the original, and some say the best, maybe? I don't know. Anyway,
one of the worst.
One of the 2 worst commentary services in this world at the moment. Alongside me today, I have men of great wisdom, great experience, and quite a lot of girth. Certainly to my right, it's not Fred Titmus. Hello. And on my left, unexpectedly but delightfully, and also because he bought pastries cooked in his Arga, it's Dave Brooke.
In-laws Arga.
Well, that's let's face it, if the in-laws are around, no wonder you're here. What can we say?
Exactly.
What can we say? Well, what we can say is that, would you believe it, England have won a toss. They've won a toss, and would you believe it, they've put South Africa into bat. It's 30 degrees. There's not a cloud in the sky. What on earth is going on out there? What's going on, Dave?
Well, thinking about it from a positive point of view,
oh God, all right.
It could be the chaos that's been around the South African team and the whole setup. Maybe put them under early pressure, get a few early wickets, get amongst them. You know, it's not the strongest batting lineup we've seen from South Africa. They've got 2 debutants and a lot of people who've been messed around by the selectors and various other people. So it's a team in transition. Maybe Joe Root's thinking, we've got 5 seamers. Let's see them do their work and get amongst them.
Yeah, well, there you go. Also, I mean, England had all sorts of illness problems in the lead up to this game. We do know that Ben Stokes' dad is a little bit improved, so he's going to play, isn't he?
He wasn't in the starting 11, was he? Ben Stokes' dad?
Yes. Ben Stokes' dad, I don't think will be playing because
he's probably a decent player.
He probably is. He's certainly quite good at rugby league. But anyway, apparently his condition has improved, and so Ben Stokes feels he's in the mood to go out and play. But that's got to be hanging over you, hasn't it, a little bit, Fred? I mean, you're a very sensitive man.
I'm wondering. I mean, it's Stokes. Everything's a drama with Stokes. Isn't it?
There's
always something happening.
Absolutely.
And, very often, nothing to do, no fault of his own. Occasionally,
occasionally
fault of his
own. Yeah.
But there's always, he's box office in that respect. There's always a story about Ben Stokes, and this time it's his ailing father. We hope he's on the mend.
Well, apparently,
but
there is good news on that front that his condition is now stable. But Fred, you have to play on, don't you, in these circumstances?
Well,
You're a professional cricketer.
You do.
Look at Alzari Joseph. You were there in Antigua.
That's right.
For that Test match early on this year, where the poor lad had to play on. Even though his mother had passed during the Test match, he played on.
Yeah.
I believe the England players are wearing black armbands. I'm assuming it's because of the passing of Bob Willis since
yes, well, we had a little bit of a tribute to him this morning on Sky Sports. Let me just take you through the teams because these are important. For South Africa, Aidan Markram, who I thought until last night was not going to be playing because he broke his wrist, didn't he? Getting out for a pair in Pune in the India series, which South Africa were trounced in. But apparently he played one first-class match just before Christmas. Didn't do particularly well, but I think he got 30 and a single. So he's opening the batting with Dean Elgar. You feel like Dean Elgar's been out there for years. Anyway, Zubair Hamza is a man that I'm looking forward to watching. Arasi van der Dussen will be familiar to some of those of you who watched the World Cup last summer, but he's making his Test debut today. Faf du Plessis, of course, Quinton de Kock, Dwayne Pretorius, the all-rounder, Vernon Philander in at 8. Of course, he's got a lot of runs, didn't he, on the last South Africa Test of Tour of England. Keisha Maharaj, Kagiso Rabada, and Anrich Nortje, who really can let the ball go. For England, it's Rory Burns, Dominic Sibley, who... Does that strike you as a man who's going to be there for very long? Dominic Sibley? I'm not sure. Joe Denley, Joe Root, Ben Stokes, Johnny Bairstow sneaks in because Ollie Pope has now gone down with a lurgy that everyone else has been suffering from, despite getting that 100 in the warm-up game. Joss Butler, Sam Curran, Jofra Archer, Stuart Broad, and Jimmy Anderson.
I hope these guys really are indisposed. I mean, you've really got to make yourself available to play. I mean, what is it? Head cold? What have they got?
Well, you don't do your teammates any favours if you are under the weather and you say, yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, pick me.
For 5 days, it's hard, isn't it?
Good on Johnny Bairstow. He's forced his way back into the team by sheer weight of runs.
Absolutely fantastic.
Sheer absence of runs.
I thought his performance in the test part of the New Zealand tour was absolutely brilliant by actually going home. Anyway, we're going to get underway very shortly. We're going to jingle people up. We're going to have some fun.
Jingle up the openers.
Let's do it. I do love this piece of music. Oh,
yeah, it's by Sir Edward Markram.
Indeed. The Bears come in to do running repairs. I don't know why. That sounded perfectly fine to me. We're now looking for...
it is quite a joke. Let's play the other jingle. See how quiet that one is.
Oh, he's testing
He's
at
a
sound
grinner,
level.
a part-time spinner,
Ooh.
and this Safa, yes, he's a winner.
Oh, I like it.
Playing his shots out in the sun. He's a stroker, not mediocre. He's no World Cup choker.
Ooh.
He gets us moving with his runs. Woo! Woo!
And the bowler
Aiden Markram.
for his 150th test will be this chap.
Oh, so good to have that back.
They're going off. More drama.
There is. Someone seems to have got trapped under the covers.
Man's down.
He is
Before
down.
a ball has been bowled.
And everyone is going to his or her aid. I'm not sure whether it's he or she from this distance. And now Jimmy Anderson's not very happy.
Grumpy.
He's teapotting already before he's even bowled a ball. Johnny Bairstow, I don't know what sort of medical qualifications he's got, but maybe he's rescued people from a cave before or something, because he's gone down there to help.
Is it a photographer or a steward
I thought it was a photographer
or an
initially.
interloper?
I thought it was a photographer, but then I couldn't see any sign of a camera, so that kind of put me off the scent.
And now he's prostrate on the floor, and the camera is avoiding that person, whoever he is.
Oh dear! I hope it's not serious. Anyway, so that's that just adds to the tension of it. I suppose it means that we can have a look at Twitter and see who has joined us this morning.
Do you think? Well, I will in a moment, but it's not. I mean, I've got two messages on here. One from Ravi Nair and one from Nias Mohammed, who've told us that they're not listening to us. They're listening to Gorilla's other service emanating from South Africa.
Ravi Nair.
He says he was all the best guys. Since I promised to be 12th man for Gorilla South Africa, I shall be listening to them. We'll miss you though. Hope you all had a great Crimbo. Well, I mean, I'm not going to get into a dialogue with Ravi because he's not listening.
Well, Ravi,
But is this
I'm
the
very
first time?
disappointed.
Just to go back to the events on the field, Hendo, is this the first time that a collapsing steward has delayed the start of a test match?
Ooh, well, I don't know. We'd have to get.
I'll check Andrew Sampson's feed.
Andrew
He's
Sampson?
usually good with those kind of
Knackle.
things.
If Knackle's up, maybe he can look into that one as well.
Knackle's second screening, he's already sent us a photo impression
It won't do
of
the-
his two screens.
It won't do the batsman any good, because you sort of build yourself up
Yes.
and you get yourself in the zone,
And
and then all of a sudden there's an unexplained delay, and they're not showing it for some reason, so I'm hoping it's not something very serious, which
Oh, yes.
they tend not
Is
to
it
do.
like the horses falling at the last? You don't show the horse?
Well, I'm thinking more of footballing injuries that they show once and we never see again because they look a bit
bones
gruesome.
poking through
Or
various
streakers?
parts.
You never get any coverage of streakers
No.
anymore.
No, unfortunately, that seems to have died out.
Oh no, goodness me! Well, someone's being carried off on a stretcher.
But he seems to be moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, his head's up. He's holding his head. It's
It's a bit early for heat stroke.
I was going to say, it's a
I'm
bit.
sorry, this is poor. You sign on for a match.
Yeah.
You sign on as a steward. You don't even make the first ball.
That's poor. That's
Make
poor.
sure he gets paid on the way out. Anyway,
We're
we
going to
are
start.
going to start.
Good God. Jimmy Anderson's going to be bowling from the pavilion end. It's his first ball in Test cricket since early August.
I don't think much of England's over 8, actually.
It's very slow, isn't
3
it?
minutes gone, I haven't had a ball bowled.
Rubbish. It's
Can I
absolute
congratulate you, Hendo, on your Afrikaans pronunciation of
Afrikaans.
some of these newcomers? Can we have them again? The two new boys in the
I
team.
don't think we want to go into that.
I'm not sure if I can remember them.
Nortje.
Rassi van der Dussen.
I like that.
I think that's quite good.
I'm looking forward to saying that name.
Zubaya Hamza is the other guy. that I'm looking
Pretorius
forward
is the other.
to. Dwayne Pretorius
is the other
Pretorius.
debutant.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Hamza is not a debutant. He's
No,
played 2 Test
exactly,
matches.
yeah.
Dean Elgar then waiting for the first delivery of the morning. It's Jimmy Anderson. Oh, it's a horrible ball down the leg side. Has he got a little edge too? He has Just would you believe it? Jimmy Anderson comes back into Test cricket.
Strangle.
He bowls it down the leg side, and Dean Elgar, a man who's carried his bat 3 times in Test cricket, just edges one as he tries to glance it through to the keeper, Jos Buttler, and South Africa. What a start for England, are none for one.
Then he waddled away, waddle, waddle.
Well, that's what happens.
You flipping muppet.
You're 4 months out with injury, and then you come back, and well, that's your 576th wicket in Test cricket. Easy stuff. Easy stuff.
I had a little wager on that, on Anderson getting a wicket in his first over.
Did you?
Yes.
What odds did you go on that?
Very decent.
Go on, tell me.
Well, it's 6-1.
6-1.
I hope the bear got under.
I'm hoping you put
all of the first wicket.
I'm hoping you put about £10 million on that.
Sadly, just it's a very small bet. But wasn't that innocuous delivery? Do you think that was Court Steward bowled Anderson?
Well, I'll tell you what, Jimmy was in a bad mood. He was definitely grumpy, and that will cheer him up no end. That will change his perspective on life.
But do you think that protracted delay, Fred, was
Doesn't
the
help the
reason?
batsman,
Doesn't
as I may have predicted.
You may indeed. In fact, you did.
I did.
And a very good point. I mean, to get out like that on Boxing Day of all days. Oh, jeez.
Struggling for the relevance there, but
No,
yes,
I don't know. Well, it's it's the Boxing Day test.
not
isn't
the
it?
start South Africa were looking for. Let's put it that way.
You think? Well, it means that we're going to get a very early look at Zubair Hamza, which, as I said, I was looking forward to. It means we don't have to watch Dean Elgar grinding out another sort of innings where he's still on 83
Well,
not
not
out
for
by
other
the
days,
end.
I
anyway.
don't think we're going to see anyone grinding out an innings. That's my prediction. I think this South Africa team is in disarray, and although they've got the new coaching staff in position, there'll be a lot of pressure on these boys, Endo.
Jingle
Well,
for the new bloke.
New bloke.
Describes batting like war. Hours of boredom. Standing in a field. Then a few seconds of excruciating existential terror as people hurl things at you with deadly force.
You know, that was almost both a mess, Kendo, wasn't it? In the way that Anderson came back into a test match and bowls a absolutely shite ball and gets a wicket.
Yep, indeed.
Shades of Ian Botham versus New Zealand on his comeback test that time, after his
I
extended
think
drugs ban.
Jimmy's in better shape than Botham was in that.
Has he got as good an agent?
He hasn't got as good a mullet.
Anyway, he's going to be bowling to Hamza. 3 slips in the gully, forward short leg are the close fielders. He's in, he bowls to him, and there's a little bit of gentle away swing. And Hamza, the right-hander, leaves that comfortably enough outside the off stump. What I was going to say, though, is you're talking about this team, and certainly from a batting perspective, being in disarray. But Hamza, as he walked out, looked like a very reluctant number 3. Do I have to? Is it like a man who's just been disturbed in bed and has to get up a little bit earlier for work than he expected, and he didn't look happy at all.
As Richie Beno would say, his body language.
Yeah, it's not very good body language. That's well, we're just looking at Jimmy Anderson. He's laughing his head off taking that wicket. Here he comes again, in, bowls to Hamza again. There is a little bit of a way swing, but he props forward, gets a thick outside edge, it runs away, finds the gap between third slip and gully, and beg your pardon, Dave Brooke, and it's 4 runs. Nope.
Not one more for me, I must have 2 or 3, I need 4.
Well, Hendo,
Can I just apologise if anyone did pick that up on the effects microphone? Too much turkey.
Oh dear.
Hendo, you've done some remarkable preparation for this test match. So
Yep.
what can you tell us about Zubair Hussain?
I can tell you that he's 24 and he's very handsome. Is that enough to be going on with?
Christine,
Handsome
you've been
and
doing your
reluctant.
notes or something?
Handsome and reluctant.
Handsome and reluctant, that's what I know about him so far. In comes Anderson again. Oh, now he comes forward a little bit reluctant to get his front foot right out to that one, but he gets a thick inside edge. It runs behind the man at short leg, who has to chase to backward square leg, and they take a single.
Can I chip
tell
in
you-
with his stats?
You can,
Kendo?
yes.
He's played 2 test matches, and he's scored 103 runs, a highest score of 62, and an average of 25.7. Fred, you've got a better batting average than that.
No, I don't think I have, actually.
I don't know.
A word about this pitch. It's looking distinctly mottled.
It does. Mottled was the word I was thinking of. It was in my head. Yes, absolutely right. It does. It's got an odd look about it. I don't know that the ball's going to swing for very long, though. It seems quite a bright day. There's no cloud about. It may be quite humid. I don't know. We need to get a humidifier out there, find out what's going on. Anderson then in, bowls to Markram, and Markram is forward to a ball. Maybe just nip back a little bit. Played up to new ball partner of Jimmy Anderson. They're back in tandem today, Stuart Broad. And there is no run. Have we got any tweets?
We have. Hello, good morning to Senior Brain Damage.
Hello.
He says, as long as Pope comes back when fit, that's the main thing. I'm not having this team slipping into old ways and habits by persisting with Bairstow. Don't give a toss what he scores here. Not having it.
It was a very good point, though, but Bairstow's got a fantastic average in South Africa. In comes Anderson, bowls to Markram. Markram leaves a ball with good length outside the off stump. That's the end of the over. Jimmy getting up to 130, he's taken a wicket, and South Africa are 5 for 1.
Very good morning to Jay Grover, who joins us and gives us some seasonal greetings. Hope all was jolly.
Oh, well, jolly?
Was it jolly for you, Hendo?
Jolly-ish, I suppose, yes.
All was good for Jay Grover, apart from his crackers, which were predictably shit.
We didn't have crackers this year. They're just expensive, aren't they, crackers? They're about, £100 per cracker.
Well, the more you spend, the better value they are, because you get sort of goods and services and items inside.
Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah, but did you get any good jokes? Did you get any good jokes in your crackers?
I did.
Give us one. Go on.
What about the ghost?
Go on.
What does a ghost wear in the rain?
A body?
A cagoon.
Oh, it's not bad. Fred, have you got anything?
Why did the ant tear across?
He's lost that one. He's given up on that one.
Anyway, Hendo, you don't need crackers for Christmas.
Hey,
crackers all year round.
Crackers enough, indeed, absolutely.
Well, eventually we are going to see the second over of the day. It's going to be bowled by this chap.
He's coming in to Hamza, and Hamza turns that rather nicely off his legs down to long leg for a single. Jofra Archer's there.
If God was one of the odds.
Can someone give us a humidity ranking for Pretoria, Centurion, Tashwani?
It's hot.
I know it's hot, but the humidity.
Oh, what's it?
Humidity. Not the hottity, the humidity.
Who was it who said we'd never see Broad and Anderson playing Test cricket again?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Gary.
Was it Vaughan? Was it a Vaughan Free comment?
No, it might well have been Vaughan, actually, who we had to endure during the night, or the first hour and a half of Australia, New Zealand last night, which, of course, was linked by our old friend Dick Norcroft. Here comes Broad in bowls, just coming back into hands to Mark, who times this beautifully. Nothing more than a forward push, and that, unbelievably, is going to roll past mid-on and all the way eventually to the boundary.
What did you think of that dive from Jimmy Anderson at mid-on?
It's a dive of a 37-year-old.
Yes. In fact, it was a dive of a 53-year-old.
It's a bit late on to that, wasn't it?
He said, Stuart, I was trying, honest. Anyway, that's a lovely shot from the man whose wrist has only recently recovered from being put through a door. He's a very, very attractive batsman, actually, Markham. Very good through the offside.
Was it a domestic accident?
No, it was in India. He missed the third test. He did a Ben Stokes, basically. In he comes, bowls onto the back foot goes Markham, getting in behind this one and defending back to the bowler. Now, apparently what happened, he got a pair, and in the second innings, when he was out, he didn't review, and then when he got back to the pavilion, found out that he wouldn't have been out. And so, on that basis, he decided to thump the dressing room door.
I mean, it really doubles the pain for batsmen, isn't it? You're annoyed about getting out.
Yeah.
And, then to have to cope with that on top is probably doesn't do much for batsmen's fragile states of mind.
You can understand it in those circumstances. Broad in again, bowls. Oh, what a beauty that is! Just a little bit back of a length, but it went off the seam and forced him onto the back foot. He couldn't get bat on it. Lovely delivery from Broad.
Hendo, do you know what balls they're using?
Kookaburra, isn't it? I believe. So we don't expect it to do too much for very long.
Well, as far as swing's concerned, but it's possible that there may be movement off the pitch.
Maybe we need to talk. We need to talk about this this decision of England to put South Africa into bat.
Look, you got Jofra Archer as first or second change. That's strength in depth in the bowling department.
Well, there is. Broad in, full of ball. Again, a little bit of nibble, but this time Markram has decided to leave it, so no problem
I mean, Hendo, you have to say, with Dominic Sibley and the likes of him in the team, isn't it about a stronger bowling team than batting side, as far as England are concerned?
Yeah, Denley. You forgot about Denley.
Joe Denley.
But I mean, I thought this about New Zealand last night. Is it just a sense of the fragility of your batting lineup that you put a team into bat when you would think everything's pointing to you batting? 3 slips of gully, backward point, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and long leg. In comes Broad, bowls, too wide of the off-stump this time. Left alone by Markram.
Good carry to the keeper.
Yes,
although we don't know how far he's standing back, to be fair.
I mean, the other thing you've got to factor into the equation is, of course, that we've got Archer, or England have got Archer, but South Africa have got Rabada, and Rabada has got a fantastic record. I mean, he's averaging about 22. And
of course Vernon Philander in his last Test series. So both teams have got stronger bowling. attacks.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that could be another factor that was influencing Joe Root. Do you
Well,
think?
it was. I suspect so, but at the same time, what we were being told is that this pitch will deteriorate. This is one of those pitches that deteriorates late fourth day into the fifth day.
But speaking from the other point of view, do you think Joe Root didn't want to expose the England batting?
Yeah, but that's. I think there could be something in that, but that's a worry, isn't it?
It is.
That you're thinking that way.
Yeah, it is.
Of course, Rory Burns is coming off 100 in the second test in New Zealand. Full ball from Anderson, which Hamza plays rather inelegantly. There's a bit of bat, bit of pad, bit of glove perhaps, but ball drops down in front of him, and there is no run. So 10 for 1 is the score. If you're just joining us, remember of course that you do have a choice. We never forget you have a choice. You have Guerrilla Cricket, the original and the best, and then you have Guerrilla Cricket South Africa, who are in South Africa. I think they've got less people on than we have. Anyway, here comes
Fewer.
Anderson. Fewer indeed, outside the off stump. Well, it could be either in that circumstance. Left alone by Hamza, and through to the keeper it goes. Now, what we should know very soon is how much money is involved in the GPL today.
Just wondering whether Fred has a problem with those supermarkets that say less than 6 items or less.
I do, yeah.
Do you correct them?
Well, Fred has any number of problems. I don't think we want to go there.
I have seen a supermarket which says fewer. I can't remember which it is, and I was gave him a round of applause. I'm going to try and find the GPL. But
good, that would be
I'm not
handy.
sure that we're logged in.
Beautiful day, Super Sport Park. I do like a place called Super Sport Park. Outside the off stump, left alone by Hamza, who then has a little look at this mottled pitch, goes down the wicket to have a little prod. I don't know, there's something about Hamza. He just looks like a Test cricketer to me. He's lithe. He's looks in good nick. He's young. He's gorgeous. He's
You do seem to be making this point.
yes,
repeatedly.
I do. He's he just looks like he's born to this game. Anyway, here comes Anderson again in to Hamza, and he props forward and leaves a ball that's far too wide outside the off stump. Very little deviation on its route through to Butler.
The
Yes,
GPL
Fred.
is open.
The GPL is open. How much money?
Unsurprisingly, there's no entries yet because the Shrewdies coming out a little bit later.
Yeah.
And there are £53 in the pot.
There are £53, 53 individual pounds
Yes.
put together.
Not fewer than £53.
£53, and if you want to know how to enter the GPL, I shall tell you in a minute after Anderson has bowled his latest delivery. Good crowd in, which is nice to see.
Boxing Day.
It is indeed Boxing Day. Oh, now this one jags back in off the seam, into the ribs almost of Hamza, who drops the ball down comfortably enough into the offside, and there is no run. Now the GPL, if you would like to take part, what you have to do is you have to go to the Guerrilla Cricket website, which is guerrillacricket.com. Go to competitions. If you have already registered, that's fine. If not, do so, and then you can estimate how many runs you think will be scored in total in the day. And for the fun of doing that, you give us £1 each time you guess. And if you get it on the nose, you win all the money. In comes Anderson. Again, Fuller. Again, not too much deviation, but that one was a little bit quicker, 138 Ks. Just bending his back a little bit there, wasn't he? Come back to the GPL in a minute, but after some tweets.
Lots of tweets coming in. Forgive my tardiness. Mary Messi Jesmus.
Oh,
we know who you are, Messi Jez. Morning all. What do you mean, Dave? I hope these guys really are indisposed. Do you think they just went along for the ride? Well, I mean, I'm thinking of Graham Thorpe when he went out there when he just came off an intravenous drip. Didn't stop him from going out and completing his innings. I'm just wondering how ill you have to be not to be fit for a Test match. Dean Jones, indeed.
Was it Bangalore?
Indeed, surely I don't know what's wrong with them. Jay Grover, is Brooke wearing a smoking jacket? Well, it is actually I thought in honour of the Boxing Day festivities, I'd bring along the jacket I was wearing.
And what's the cap?
For the Christmas Day? The cap is a Bob Marley cap.
Ah, right, okay. Broad starts his second over, bowls to Markram. Ball comes back a little bit into him, and he's just sort of playing that almost at arm's length, gets a thick inside edge towards mid-wicket, and there is a single.
Chris Drew says bonjour. Greetings from Normandy. Well, he didn't say bonjour, I added that.
Okay.
Hope Santa found your stockings. Dave Wood, I'm listening for what it's worth. Dave, it's worth a lot to us to know that. Thank you for listening. Mayank says, I'm listening to you both i.e. both Guerrilla Cricket and Guerrilla South Africa, listening to you both on each of my cell phones. It's actually much harder than I thought it would be. Good effort.
Are we totally in sync? That's the other thing we need to know. It'd be interesting to know how long the satellite signal is taking to get to us as compared to them. Here comes Broad again in bowls. That's Fuller. Beautifully timed by Hamza. It's gone away through mid-on for a couple.
Do you think it's the first time an online radio station has offered a choice of two English language commentaries separated only by their accents?
That's a good point. Actually, I'd be more impressed with Guerrilla Cricket South Africa if they were doing it in Afrikaans. That would test them, wouldn't it? Anyway, Hamza moves on to 8. Does look like a good pitch to bat on when you actually meet the ball, doesn't it?
Well, neither of these two bowlers are particularly quick. I mean, they're very skillful bowlers and good at swinging the ball and moving the ball off the seam. But it's going to be interesting to see when the quicker bowler comes into the attack.
That will be fun. Broad in again to Hamza. Well, it was almost drivable, but he decided to err on the side of caution and let it go through.
And the slower bowler of Sam Carroll.
Oh yeah, true. Good point. So 13 for 1 is the score if you're just joining us. Yes, in fact, if you are listening to both of us at the same time, obviously that sounds quite complicated.
And pointless.
Well, I don't know, because it puts figures onto both of our.
Well, yeah, but even if you click it on once and then turn it off, doesn't it add figures?
I don't know anything. I don't really understand.
Watch us on YouTube and Facebook and Crick Tracker as well.
We should
up our numbers.
We should say hello to Crick Tracker. This is forcing Hamza onto the back foot. He just guides it up to mid-on, and there is no run. Well, what I was going to say though, not so much about the pace of these bowlers, but a couple of mere pushes down the ground that have gone, comfortably past mid-on. There's been no real attacking intent in those shots, but it just suggests to me the ball's coming on really nicely to the bat if it doesn't actually do anything.
Which is why I'd be interested to see what the faster bowler does, because if Broad and Anderson are coming off the wicket quickly, he might. Oh, well, what happened there?
Well, that was an interesting one. It seemed to move, but Hamza had already decided not to play at that one. It was quite wide.
To move. I see what you did there.
It seemed to move, but
it moved dramatically off the seam actually, but it started wide and went wider. But again, good carry from both of these. So, if Jordan bowls a couple, particularly short ones, that may hurry the batsman.
Well, the thing is, with Jordan, he's got a little bit to prove after New Zealand, hasn't he?
Jordan.
Jordan, I always say Jordan. Jofra Archer. Jordan's got it all to prove.
Got it all to prove to get into this test team.
Broad again. Once more, a little bit of seam, but he's starting the ball too late at the moment, and Hamza's not having to play. That's the end of the over. South Africa have moved on to 13 for 1.
Some of us would love to see Jordan and Archer bowling in tandem.
Oh, God, yes.
Sussex supporters would like to see them bowling in tandem when they're not playing for the Hampshire Southampton Slingers or whatever they're called next season. Leah says, good morning, Guerrilla Cricket. I hope you had a peaceful Christmas, but now it's time for relentless sledging, and here's two words I don't recognise: Benshods and Benshodets. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Leah. Can you explain? Mayank says, according to Guerrilla South Africa, it was a cameraman who was hurt.
Oh.
And Guerrilla Cricket, Mark Zip tweets us with, Jimmy, can we hear the undertones jingle now? And PJ Mead says, I'm with you, Guerrilla Cricket. I'm also very glad this isn't a 5 a.m. start. The photographer looks like he's had a nasty fall.
How did he do that? It looked like he got trapped under a cover. Anderson comes in and bowls a big half volley, which Markram dispatches all the way along the ground, square of the wicket, 4 runs.
Yeah, it was a half volley, and he did dispatch it well, but I don't think Anderson will be sorry to see him playing out there. Bat was well away from, his feet weren't going towards the ball.
It did move a little bit quite late on,
yeah.
But he was in position to play it nicely.
And if ever Jimmy, who famously hates going for runs, if ever he would deal with that, is when he sees a batsman playing that far outside the off stump this early in the test match.
He's in again. Oh, he's gone after that one. He's had a horrible slash at it off the back foot, but he's got lucky. It's flown just over slip and down to the third man boundary for one of these.
It's me, Sanshi.
Well, he is an attacking batsman, but having just hit a 4, I suppose that one started wide and went wider. It was a fair enough one to go after, but early on...
Again, good bounce.
Yeah. Well, in fact, it's probably the good bounce that saved him, isn't it? Because it took it up and over slips 1 and 2, really. Not a great deal over them, to be fair. about a couple of feet as they leapt. And Jofra Archer had his hands on his head there, thinking that England might have got another breakthrough. Anyway, here comes Anderson again, consecutive fours outside the off stump. It might be a third. No, he hasn't quite got hold of that. He's forced it into the offside. Joe Denley is after it. He's just about going to haul it back. He's had support from Jofra Archer, who's then fallen over as he takes the ball from him. Eventually gets it in, and they pick up 3. So Markham going along quite nicely now, 4-4-3.
Considering that Anderson and Broad are definitely going to be the opening partnership in this England team, and they're playing with a Kookaburra ball which doesn't swing all that much after the first couple of overs, Curran is likely to be probably second change.
Yeah.
I mean, he does swing the ball, albeit at a gentle pace, even when the ball is not swinging. But is this going to be the wicket for him?
Good question. Anderson in again, really good carry there from just back of a length, and Hamza this time facing, leaves it alone. The score has now moved on to 24-1. One thing we should say about Hamza is he's averaging in first class cricket just over 50. Got a high score of 202, so he's a man who can stay in for the long haul, and it's good to see. I mean, people may talk about South Africa being in transition, but if good young players come through, they'll be off to take a cold back, in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, they'll be signing for Worcestershire before you know.
Indeed. Anderson a little bit wide on the crease, but also wide of the batsman at the other end and left alone by him.
You could say they're auditioning all the South African players and live on television in England.
I suppose the other thing is, though, that one thing we pointed out during our podcast in preview of this series is that all of the 6 new players in the squad, they're not all playing, of course, they're not all making their debuts, but all of them are 29 or 30, which is curious. They've all got quite good first-class records, the batting ones anyway. Peter Milan, who's been left out, comes from a fantastic family of players. Wide of the off-stump, just a little bit of an early away swing, and then left alone by Hamza through the keeper. There is no run. 24-1. More
right,
tweets.
I've got to catch up because lots of people tweeting in, which is lovely to hear from you all. Leah says turned out okay for Jimmy, at least. I was referring to Jimmy's first ball. If you missed that, a wicket off his very, very first ball. Tony Bishop, good morning, Tony, says on a serious note, serious face, fantastic effort for Guerrilla Cricket to have a tip-top quality commentary team bringing you every ball live of South Africa versus England on Boxing Day. Yes, they'll be on after us. Turned out okay for Jimmy, at least, indeed. Sorry, that was Leah's comment. Mary Jesmus says presumably Jimmy has at least 1 over left in the series, so he better make the best of it. Oh, I love it. And Leah and Mayank says that it's a huge crowd at the MCG, where Australia made 257 for 4, which was the lowest runs per spectator day of Test cricket ever played in Australia. Poor show, Australia. We've already had more action on this game than they had all day.
Yeah, I mean, I watched about the first hour and a half, and Australia were going along pretty well. They lost, of course, a wicket, first ball for Joe Burns. Lovely delivery from Bolt. This is played up to mid-on as Broad starts his third over.
Imagine says it's safe to predict that Johnny Bairstow will be grumpy, as he is replacing a keeper but not keeping his rightful position for as long as he chooses.
It's a fair point, actually.
He will be sulking in the outfield again, won't he?
Yeah, probably.
He should be counting his blessings.
Although he was the first person down there to help out the stricken cameraman.
Well, it's like when you're the new boy in the team, you want to try and do everything.
Want to impress.
Help out.
Yeah, I suppose so. Broad in again, bowls to Markram, gets in behind this length ball, defends it back to the bowler, no run.
I mean, you look at this England batting lineup and you wonder where the class is. Root has obviously he's not had a great 18 months, but he's got a very good Test record. And Burns has ground himself out, to be a decent Test opener. But the rest of it is very, very much. You wonder if they're the 5 best batsmen that are England qualified.
Broad outside the off stump, left alone by Hamza. Sorry, Markram. No, well, I'll come back to that. One, you're missing out the fact that Root's coming off a double 100.
No, he is.
I know you don't stay up during the night to watch cricket like the rest of us.
And it is a stronger batting lineup than England sent out 20 years ago when Chris Adams was making his debut.
Yeah, that's
You
Yeah,
always
say
bring it
anymore.
back to Sussex, won't you?
Well, it's actually an anti-Sussex point there. I don't think Chris Adams would have been quite right for Test cricket.
Ian
Well, he proved he
Salisbury played
wasn't.
for Sussex as well. He
Oh,
was
Ian
lousy.
Salisbury.
Never played in a winning England team.
Well, that's because Ian Salisbury was playing.
Broad in bowls
Exactly,
to Mark.
exactly my point, Fred.
Defends a good length ball. Ball dribbles past Broad up towards Anderson at middle. Yeah, so Root's coming off a double 100.
Yes, he is.
Ben Stokes, you have to say, is without question one of England's best batsmen.
He is.
So you've got those two.
And Sibley is obviously very, very early in his Test career.
Yeah.
I'm basically having a go at Denley again. This is what I do
I don't
most of
understand
the
that,
time. I
because
don't think he's in the top 15 England qualified
Denley-
batsmen.
Denley's-
And he's found a way of as I say, he came in because of his. In Sri Lanka, they wanted a third spinning option,
Left alone outside the off stump again.
and all of a sudden he's missed a fixture in the middle order. I mean, he's crap.
Well, I think that's a bit harsh, isn't
Well-
it? You're talking about a man who's averaging 30 in Test cricket.
He's just about 30.
Yeah, and you're talking about a man who's coming off 2
30 in
games.
Test cricket is not a good Test batting average.
But he's performed better in recently, hasn't he? He's getting better.
Well, yes, he had a 90 where he was dropped on naught and then not given out LBW to Unplumb, which they didn't review, which it swings and roundabouts. But he's as being the spare man, he's all of a sudden a fixture, and I don't get it.
Now this turns Markram round a little bit. It was short, and he was looking to sort of turn that onto the onside. He got a little bit of a leading edge towards Gully, and there was no run. It's the end of the over, 24 for 1 from 6.
And
hang on,
he did
hang
the
on.
worst drop in the history of Test cricket.
Oh, you can't hold that against him.
I can.
I mean, you can't, because the chances of England winning that game were almost nil. So it wasn't important in that sense. And also,
Was it the worst drop
he's
in the history of
mad.
Test cricket?
No, because we saw Mike Gattings, didn't we?
Much, much worse.
No.
Well, any catch at short leg is going to be harder than a
He wasn't
dolly
a
at-
short leg. He was at sort of silly mid-off, and it just looped up to him, and he had about half an hour to walk over to it and take
Can I
it.
interject a fact into this
Oh God, not a fact.
opinionated
No,
diatribe?
No, we don't want facts.
45% humidity.
Oh, 45. That's
Yeah,
not a lot, is
says,
it?
thank you, Messy Jez, or Merry Jessmas, for that. Currently 32 centigrade and 45% humidity in Pretoria.
So what does that mean? The air is 50% water?
Yes.
Something.
Yes.
Okay.
Anderson in to Hamza, who drops this down, and he sends Markram back, who has to hurry as the throw comes in from the much maligned Joe Denley
Correctly
at square
maligned
cover.
Joe Denley, who missed the stumps, I think you'll note.
Yeah, but he scared him. Now, the other thing is to point out is that he has got 160 runs in the 2 matches that they played in South Africa so far. And he's only
shouldn't
been
be on
out
the
once. Well, I think that's harsh. I mean, really, when I've not been impressed with what I've seen of Sibley, I have to say. He may come
He's
good,
played
but I'm
2
not
Test
convinced.
matches.
I know, but sometimes you just get a feel about a player, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, Burns looks ugly as well.
Well, no, he looks ugly, but he gets runs. I'm not sure about the same about Sibley, who looks a little bit better, but got a very open stance. Next ball is full, defended into the offside by Hamza, and there is no run. I think Denley has worked hard and done quite well.
Do you think he's in the top 5
circumstances.
batsmen in England? English qualified batsmen.
Well, you've got to take Root out of the equation. You've got to take Stokes out of the equation. I mean, since you seem to be well up on this, name
I
me some
think there's
players.
one at every county who's
Really?
better than Denley. I think there's probably 2 players at Kent who are better than Denley.
But are they English qualified?
Yes.
No, that's the one that swings back. Anderson has finally got that one going, and that's quite clever because they've been leaving balls wide of the off stump. But if you can get that one going, it'll just make them think a little bit more.
And he's like 30, what is he, 33,
33. No, I think in an emergency he's done he's been a pretty good sticking
It's not
plaster.
been an emergency, has
Well,
it?
it kind of has, because we've struggled so much at the top of the order. I know he's not actually at the top of the order, but he's batted at 4. He's opened the batting. He's now gone down to 3. He's doing whatever England's asking of him.
Well, yeah, so would you if
well,
they picked you. But
yeah.
that doesn't make you a good, a good selection.
Yeah, but I probably wouldn't be averaging 30. Onto the back foot goes Hamza, forces, but straight to the much maligned Joe Denley at square cover.
Yeah, if you want to compare him to someone else, Dave Wood has been in touch to say.
I don't think Dave Wood's one of the best.
Statistically, Denley is better than Ramprakash.
There you go.
Well, he was
There
a
you
perennial
go.
underachiever, wasn't he?
Well, that's true, but Ramprakash was picked at sort of 19, wasn't he, for playing for England? There's a bit of a difference when you pick a guy who, if he comes off, is going to be a fixture for 10 years, and Denley, who hasn't got much cricket left in him.
Can I say 2 words? Abid Ali,
You can, but why?
Well, he's
32-year-old debutant for Pakistan.
who's just got 200s in a row.
200s in a row.
Pushed to Archer, who's quite close there at extra cover. and there is no run. So just gone 11 balls now without a run. It's just quietened down a little bit after quite exciting opening.
I've got a lot of ground on the tweets to make up
Well,
here, Fred.
please do.
Knackle, good morning, Knackle. Wants to clarify that the two debutants are, of course, Pretorius and
Van der Dussen.
exactly, and that Dave Wood says, I'm not sure that Lythe is a great indication of someone made for Test cricket. Sounds like a failed experiment to me.
Anderson bowls. They're going to get a single here. Lovely pick-up by Archer, who takes it on his left hand, turns and throws with his right towards the non-striker zone, but they get through comfortably. So that breaks the spell, and Markram will keep the strike, or rather Hamza will keep the strike. 20... Sorry. 25 for 1 is the score. Yes, Adam Lythe, I was looking at his record from last year. I mean, didn't even score 100 last summer for Yorkshire. So I wonder whether that's, something that happens to players. They've had a little taste of Test cricket. They get dropped. They go back and think, well, can I force my way back in? After a couple of years, it hasn't happened for them, and then they just sort of lose a little bit of impetus, I think. I think that happened a bit to Denley, to be honest.
Well, possibly. Yeah, Mark Zip has been in touch to say one of his best presents came from his sister, who recited a poem that he didn't know, Cricket by Michael Hoffman. Do you know that one, Henzo?
I don't.
I assume that you literate gorilla types can recite this from memory at the drop of a hat.
In
But I've
Greek.
not known it before, and he's very kindly sent us a copy of it from Poetry Magazine. It really is quite wonderful.
We'll have a little listen to that in a minute. Broad bowls, rather awkwardly fetched round the corner by the batsman out to Archer, who's patrolling a long leg, had to make about 20 yards round the boundary to his left.
Merry Messy Jesmus didn't like my Christmas cracker joke. He said Brooker 2's definition of a good Christmas cracker joke leaves a lot to be desired. And
right
Chris
about
Dew says that his Christmas crackers were very disappointing. No bangs, no hats, no jokes. Very poor return on investment.
That is, that's
Take them back today.
Yes, exactly. What exactly did they have then to commend them? Missing everything, basically. Hamza waits. Broad is in. Oh, now he leaves that rather extravagantly down the leg side, sort of skipping over towards his off stump, and through the keeper it goes. We're going to have a change at the end of this over.
Durban Oak has said good morning from York. Should I turn over to Gorilla South Africa and sledge them? Hendo, by the way, before Fred puts on that change of commentary jingle, can I just read out a load of tweets because I'm
You can.
behind?
And then-
instead of that,
we just
instead of
got-
the change of commentary jingle.
Just got to find out who else we've got out there so far. Who else has
I
arrived?
think Andy's arrived. Merry Messi Jesmus, we've heard from him. Yeah, you gave us the humidity figure. Durban Oak. Good morning from York. Should I turn over to Gorilla South Africa and sledge them?
Yes, sledge them absolutely down the leg
Please,
side again.
yes.
Short ball from Broad. Durban Oak. If you're in England, you ought to come to the the headquarters of the great guerrilla organisation while you're in England. Really.
Yes, and he goes on to say, I heard that England are wearing black armbands for Bob Willis, which is absolutely true. All RIP Bob Willis, a huge loss to cricket. Steve Aldersley, good morning, Gorillas. It's 3:15 a.m. here in Canada, and I'm somehow awake. What's the over-under on Bairstow calling for a review?
Onto the back foot goes Hamza, and then flicks that away with a lot of wrist up to mid-on, or certainly wide of mid-on. He strolls round.
Mojo says a platinum duck, an amazing feat by Dean Elgar.
platinum duck.
Doesn't
Yes.
happen very often. I'd just like to say hello to Malcolm West, who appears to be listening, probably from the Czech Republic. He is my club captain at Blenheim Park Cricket Club, or at least he is till the next AGM anyway. So, hello Malcolm, hope you're enjoying your winter festivities. It's probably nice and cold out there.
Marvellous.
You've got
Hope to
some
get-
hot news on that then.
Hope to get a game for you, Fred, this summer. BJ Mead says, in a nerdy sort of way, I'm feeling quite pleased because my son has given me an Amazon Echo and it has tune-in available. I'm listening in on that. Well done, BJ Mead. That's well worth achievement, well worth chronicling.
Broad bowls back of a length, defended. It was quite straight towards mid-wicket. 28 for 1's the score. 1 ball to go in the end of this over. We'll have a change. Fred will move into the hot seat, and hopefully we'll get hold of Andy, and we'll see who else is out
Rog,
there.
possibly.
Possibly.
The Bear. We have a 3-person joke.
Maybe. Any more tweets? Yes?
Men with Ven is listening from a filthy, rainy Los Angeles. Thank the Lord for non-geo-block broadcasting.
Oh, it's a tough life, isn't it, Men with Ven? You've given up on the wildebeest of Whistable, and we're gonna have a two-man change by the looks of things. Outside the off stump, left alone. At the end of the over, South Africa 28 for 1. Markram has 15. Hamza has 12. There'll be loads of tweets,
Loads
and
of
then
tweets.
Andy and and the Bear
I'm
will
full
join us.
19 minutes behind here. Genro, hello, hola, mi gente, merry everything. There's still no effing snow here. And Knuckles says that Zubair Hamza has a very good first-class record. Averages just over 50 from 60 games, 1100s and a best of 202 not out. He was also the only South African to pass 50 in the one test he played in India, and he did well for South Africa A the year before. And that's exactly what Hendo was going to say when Fred asked him about Zubair Hamza. But thank you, Knuckle, for completing the answer to that much more thoroughly. Mia Katie says, morning chaps. Happy Boxing Day test from me in rainy Devon. Mayank says the other gorillas are about 2 seconds behind you guys.
First ball of a new over from Jimmy Anderson's down the leg side. I think it came off the pad, and Butler did a good sprawling stop away to his left. Credit where it's due. Joss Butler stopped the ball. It's still 28 for 1. We've had a two-person change, and when they sit down and get their bearings, I shall introduce them to you. Yeah, it did come off the pad. It was going well down the leg side. A good stop from Butler, and coming in to be reading some of your tweets, the good ones.
Some of exactly.
It's very welcome to. Very welcome.
It's a very welcome.
A very
to me,
great
yes.
welcome to Andy Ward.
Morning.
As the next ball from Anderson is blocked to Archer at extra cover, no run.
Yes, and for those of you watching on Facebook Live, this is my Christmas shirt, so do not adjust your set.
Really? It looks pretty.
Very nice.
And having coming into my right, playing your jingles, it's the man, the myth, the bear, the legend, the bear.
Thanks, Fred.
Did you win that bet?
No, I fucking didn't. I
'cause it
didn't
was
get
the
under
first
on the
ball.
first one, and then I went under the second one. Thought we might get a quick double, and we haven't. 25 and a half was the next marker.
Anderson bowls outside the off stump, and Hamza leaves. So, welcome to you both, coming in early on this Boxing Day morning.
Yeah, I was up so early, I thought I was going to work at Matalan.
It's lost on me, but
Some branches of Matalan were open at 4 a.m. this morning.
really? Who has to go to Matalan at 4 a.m.
I
on a
don't
Boxing
know,
Day
but they
morning?
were
one.
opening.
Dear. We're looking at the England seamers' lengths have all been pretty good. There's not been much dross. In fact, probably the worst ball of the day was the one that got the wicket, which was filth down the leg side from Anderson's first ball of the test match. He's in again, and he bowls, and this shapes in nicely towards Hamza, who does get the bat down on it and plays it to mid-wicket, no run, but some good shape from Jimmy.
Yeah, Linux Lear loves that the eternal sledgehammer of justice has been preferred to Per Stowe at keeper. That was one, whoever you made keeper, you could say you were upsetting the other person, so I think it's fair enough to stick with Butler.
Butler is the keeper at the moment.
Yeah, I mean they said that, didn't they? So
Bairstow's come in because somebody else is injured.
North Stand Gang Wankade sends us a gif of them singing a Jimmy Anderson jingle.
Another ball which shapes into Hamza from Jimmy, and this one he gets inside, plays it out towards point where Denley happens to be fielding. I don't know why he's playing. I may have made that point. 28 for 1.
well,
Arthur Patricia says, good morning, like many others in England, because it's a commonplace tradition. I'm off to the Boxing Day vintage tractor parade.
Aren't we all?
oh, that
Well,
sounds amazing.
That's
Where's
where
that?
we all would have been if we weren't here today. But stopping by to issue season's greetings and say, England, pick a damn spinner. Well, too late for that.
Well, he's injured. He's ill, isn't he?
Yes, he wasn't quite fit as Anderson bowls again, shapes back into Hamza. He's bowling a good line, and a testing spell from Jimmy Anderson. He has the 1 wicket to fall today at the end of the over, 28 for 1.
Julia Farman, Jules. Julia Farman, MBE, it says here.
It is.
No,
it
very
is.
nice.
Is that real?
No,
It-
she does have an
she's
MBE.
an
Just like people call themselves lords on Twitter. and
No. services to the civil service. I
Well
think,
done,
isn't it?
Jules, and well deserved. And she's given us a plug on Twitter. Mog says Root is a faded belle who should just quietly retreat into the shadows, so we don't have to see all of his flaws in the harsh, direct light.
He's very nice about you,
Don't
Mog.
we all? Gorilla Cricket, from Evil Scooters, quote, he's got a long, long time to think about what he's done. We hope. Is that referring to Elgar, presumably?
Probably. There was I'm not saying I feel sorry for him, but having come out to bat, at the start of an innings, he's used to it. He's got a lot of experience. There was a 5-minute or a 3-minute delay as a cameraman behind the arm was taken ill and had to be stretchered off. And Jimmy was looking extremely grumpy, but it can't help the batsman as well when you
It's not ideal.
psyched yourself up and then you have to reset yourself. And he just gloved one down the leg side, which was a terrible ball.
It was one weekend. I got first ball on Saturday, first ball of the innings. Then I was going to be changing bowl. Then on the Sunday, before our innings, I was running around desperately trying to find a suitable match ball.
Change of bowling. He's as yet unnamed, but he's left arm over the wicket, and he bowls, and this is driven over extra cover. Bloody hell! Markham's not hanging around. He's smashed this up and over extra cover and down to the boundary for 4 runs. Well, showing no respect to the bowler, who is this
man.
chap.
It was a floaty half volley though.
Well, I was asking Hendo earlier as Cowan comes in and bowls, and this one is, well, he plays inside it, does Markram, as it went past the outside edge. Curran is coming on at first change. They're using, we're told, a Kookaburra ball which doesn't swing after the first couple of overs, and swing is very much what Sam Curran's bowling is about. And I'm wondering quite what he's going to do. It's be interesting to see. He does swing the ball even when the ball doesn't swing.
I think Markram has about as much respect for Curran as a test bowler as I do, judging from that first shot.
As Curran bowls against his edge and bounces short of the captain at first slip. He got a genuine outside edge. It bounced a couple of yards short of Root, who parried it in front of him, so no runs scored. I think he can swing the ball more often. He doesn't need a perfect new
overcast day
and overcast day and all that. I think he's a natural swinger of the ball. But I've been saying since he came into the Test match arena that people have been a little bit seduced by his hitting when he's in the game as a bowler. He's hit straight to Burstow at mid-wicket, and Curran has got the wicket. We always said he's a fantastic bowler, and the second wicket has fallen for South Africa. What was he doing?
Yeah, just flicked it to mid-wicket and was caught very low down to the ground, and I think he's asking himself the same question in more harsh words.
Trying to be too aggressive, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, he's hit the first ball. That was a length ball on the hip, sort of, on the pad, and he's just turned it to short mid-wicket, who takes the catch, diving forward. A good catch, actually, by the Ginger Burstow, who's delighted with himself, as well he ought to be. Markram has gone for a rather odd 20.
Was a bit strange. First of all, finish my story. I was out first ball in that innings as well, as you probably guessed.
Right.
And catch up with some tweets.
And you're blaming it on the fact that you were looking for a good match ball, was that?
It didn't help,
right.
Yeah. Mary Messi Jesma says, but Ramprakash has a much better Scrabble score than Denley. Dave Wood says, can't argue with that, although Fred will probably try.
What's he not arguing with?
The Scrabble score
thing.
Ramprakash should be a very good Scrabble score.
I don't think you've got enough letters.
And I don't think you have either, have you?
No, you could
add ramp and then you just add Rakash to it.
Yes,
but it's not really a word in English.
No, it's not.
It's a proper noun.
It's a proper noun. Nakul gives us some stats. Dean Elgar, the 28th man to be out first ball of a Test match. Other South Africans to do that: Eddie Barlow, Jimmy Cook, and Gary Kirsten. And the people who did it the most. One you might be able to guess, one you might not. But I think I think they're both Indian.
Sonny Gavaskar?
Gavaskar, yes. But if you get the other one, Hanan Sarkar, I'd have been very... You were just about to say...
I was my third guess.
My tongue, Andy. What are you on about?
Nakul has sent us some pictures of some balloon animals as well. Out of his Christmas crackers came balloons and instructions for making balloon animals.
Well, we've lost the wicket, so there's a new batsman in, and it's this chap.
Life goes on, right, la, 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 life goes on.
That's how you do a jingle.
And
it's like 5 seconds, in and out. Thank you very much, Sherwood. And Faf du Plessis will be facing up to Sam Curran. It's a full ball, which he blocks to cover. No run, 32 for 2.
A song that, of course, does double duty on Gorilla jingles. Obla Di Obla Da. Doesn't someone else have that one?
Yes, I think they do.
It was a song that Lennon hated so much he wouldn't let them release it, and Marmalade had a hit with it before the Beatles did.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of stuff which the internal. Well, we're not going to talk about the Beatles again. I think you did it the other day, judging by the Twitter feed. And,
okay. I mustn't have been. It must have been one of the short periods in which I wasn't listening.
As this is another full ball, basically a half volley, which is turned to Bairstow on the bounce at mid-wicket. The end of the over, successful one for England and for Sam Curran. South Africa are 32 for 2. Hamza has 12, and Du Plessis yet to get off the mark.
So England got to be very happy with that start.
Having put them in, yeah.
Having put them in, absolutely. I did see on the. I was checking the prices yesterday, and I saw the draw was a good 6-7 to 1. People not fancying a draw in this game.
Well, 2 weakish batting lineups. Weather forecast is pretty good. You know, if you've got 5th day tickets, probably get them on StubHub, nice and early.
Well, they've got Philander at 7.
Yeah, Maharaj at 8. I mean,
no, Pretorius is 7.
Oh yeah, Philander. 8.
Even so, he's not a great
exactly.
bat.
He's not an 8.
2 teams, I think we think are much better in the bowling department than in the batting. But
Wicket looks a hell of a lot better than those dreary shit tracks that I had in New Zealand.
Another change of bowling.
Ooh.
And it's going to be the man who bowled England's last over in the World Cup, or the extra over. It's this chap.
He will break your heart, hotter than lava, cooler than Bogart, in your face, at your stumps, on your toes, on your mum.
Archer bowls, and that comes back into Hamza, who leaves the ball, and it goes over his off stump and not very much over. Well, that was a brave leave.
It was. Arthurshire says England's policy of taking all 10 wickets in the first 30 overs before the ball turns through a bar of soap and then they get milked for 4 and over for the rest of the game seems to be working so far.
Well, if they've taken all 10 wickets, how are they going to be milked after that?
That's instead of. This is the better plan.
Right. Well, that was a brave leave. He sort of left it on length and it didn't get up all that much. So this one comes back into him again. He gets an inside edge into his inside thighs, probably stinging a bit, but he's not going to rub it and show the bowler that he's hurt. So 2 good balls from Archer to start.
Yeah, still a debate going on about whether Archer should be opening or change, even with Anderson and Broad. See how it pans out today.
I think he just needs to bide a little bit of time and he'll be getting the new ball.
It won't be long. No, it won't be long. It might be Anderson's.
It's like it's like an apprenticeship, isn't it? You know.
Archer bowls again, fuller and outside the off stump, and Hamza is not tempted into playing a shot.
Hamza seems to kind of take a step to leg, doesn't he? Are you watching this? I mean, his back
trigger movement.
It's trigger movement. Instead of like most people, is back and across. He seems to be back
and not across.
Back and outside leg. Like
I'm running away to the to the square leg umpire.
Playing inside the ball all the time.
Yeah, well, he's played a couple of Test matches before this, and sometimes when people come into Test cricket, you think that's a bit of an odd technique, and we've said it about England players over the years. Let's have a close look at him as he ducks underneath a bouncer. He didn't back away. It was a short ball, went well over his head, and Buttler takes.
And of course that can lead to some short-term success before bowlers figure you out.
Yeah, well,
Gary Balance being a prime example.
Constant battle, isn't it? Batsmen are tweaking their games all the time. You know, sometimes actually not even noticing that they're doing things differently, and you know, you have to watch video of yourself, compare videos of one year to the next to see what the difference is. This is what batting coaches are supposed to do.
Well, the most well-known example would be Steve Smith, who no one's figured out yet.
As this is well down the leg side by Archer, probably tempting the umpire to signal it wide, but he doesn't. Yeah, well, Steve Smith, I just have everybody bowling round the wicket, leg stump Yorkers at him the whole time, and packing the
leg side field.
The leg side field.
No one ever does that, do they? I mean,
well, you can't do it in an ODI. You can do it in tests. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, even in test match, I mean, you see, I was thinking about this the other night. In test matches, you always see that point where, you know, they'll bowl dry way outside the off stump and pack the offside field, 7-2 offside field, but you hardly ever see a 7-2 leg side field banging it in a leg stump, as you say.
This is a
nice shot.
Ball is turned quite nicely through square leg. There's nobody out there. He timed it pretty well, did Hamza, and it runs away to the boundary.
2 + 2 is a man.
But, you know, to Smith, if you had a sort of a fine leg and a backward square leg, and you had a bloke just in front of square on the boundary and a deep mid wicket, you know, you could
dry him up.
Yeah, you can. There'd be a lot of singles and not much else.
Well, I just think he'll take a run of ball with no risk at all day.
Well, no, I don't. Well,
yeah. You know, remember he's going to have to change his game a little bit because he does walk way across. So
Well, he just wouldn't walk across as much, I would think.
yeah,
I- to be
well,
fair, I haven't
you'll
really
make him change his
Yes, okay. We haven't really seen anybody bowl right arm round to him, to my knowledge.
and very, very full. That's what I'm saying. Just try and bowl leg stump Yorkers at him, ball after ball. See what happens. As Curran to start a new over, wide of off stump, and Faf, who has the patience, perhaps that some of these other South African batsmen don't, is happy to leave that one.
Do you think when Curran's like 34, he's still going to look 12 years old?
Ooh, somebody could use one of those aging apps on his photo and send it to us and see what he's going to look like. It's going to be scary, whatever it is. This is, of course, a World Test Championship game after the games in New Zealand weren't for some reason. And it's a 4-test series, so they've taken it off the screen. A shorter ball from Curran, which du Plessis turns to square leg, and Bairstow running in like a small child.
240 points up for grabs.
240 points up for grabs in every series, and you divide it by the
that's-
number.
That's not how it works.
No,
is it?
120 points available every series,
Yeah,
and you divide it
exactly.
by the number of test
Yeah.
matches.
Oh right, okay, sorry. I
Yeah.
was just looking at the top line now. Okay, so yeah, see that's fucking. I'm not sure I like this, isn't it? I mean, you're better off having 2 test series and try and go for the win. You get 60 points.
Well, and everybody's not playing everybody. A good ball from Curran, which shapes back into du Plessis and gets a little bit more bounce than you expect. It came off the shoulder of the bat into the ground and towards Burns at the squarer gully. No run.
Armchair Cricket Podcast says Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and to you, sir. Mog says, an indication of just how little a life I actually have. I've completed all the jingles for the T20 World Cup qualifiers except Zhivago Grunwald. Well, you can't do a Dr. Zhivago for us?
What's the theme tune to Dr. Zhivago?
It's quite famous, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, another good ball from Curran. He's a really cracking bowler. We've always said.
We've always said
that
so.
shapes back into Faf, who's again hurried, which is not something you say very often when Curran is bowling. And it plays into the leg side. No run.
Is this isotonic something or?
No, it's just basically, yeah.
It's an Amazon warehouse pea bottle by the look of it. And someone's been drinking a lot of beer.
You've gone through Matalan, Amazon. Any other big names you want to have a go at today, Andy?
No, all of them. John Lewis isn't open today.
John Lewis is not open today.
No,
good for
They'll
them.
be bankrupt next year. Full ball, and du Plessis does get down on. Was it a Yorker or was it a half volley? But he plays it to mid wicket. Again, Curran seems to be bowling a little bit quicker than we've seen him.
Well, he was born in
He's
South
generally
Africa.
slow.
He's bowling full. He's giving himself a chance at swing.
Yes,
I like this wicket, I've got to say.
from a bowling point of view.
For a bowling point, it's
Yeah.
quite entertaining for a change.
Faf has gloves which are half white and half pink, and the top half of his bat is pink as well, or sort of fuchsia, I think you'd call it. As Curran is in again, and that one does not come back into him, goes past the outside edge, and du Plessis is having a bit of a test from Curran. The end of the over, it's 36 for 2. Some more tweets.
Yeah, I do think South Africa's green numbers on the back of the shirt are not in a very attractive shade. Evil Scooter says, hello and compliments of the season all. Joining you for 10 overs before I switch back to your southern colleagues. Well, don't let us keep you too long. How are we this morning? It is, of course, are we in direct competition with Gorilla South Africa?
Complimentary.
You get both sides of the coin.
Complimentary.
Yes, with an
not
E.
Complimentary.
No, we're not complimentary about them, no. 36 for 2, 12 overs have gone, and England, having put South Africa in with an all-seam attack, we'll be quite happy.
Get another wicket.
Get another wicket.
Yeah, very happy, I'd have thought, yeah.
We get past Quinton de Kock shortly after lunch, maybe, even
Get
before lunch.
him in while the ball's still moving around.
Exactly, he's only got to get 2 more wickets and he's in.
And did we have confirmation that the ball is a kookaburra as Archer starts a new over, and this is dropped into the leg side by Hamza, who looks quite keen to get off the strike, and they take a sharp single, and
Broad, a little bit slow off the mark there. Comrade
37 for 2.
Bernski, good morning, Gorillas, and Felix the Navy's dad to all. I have to say, living in the US, I much preferred the Antipodean time zone for cricket, especially on Boxing Day.
Yeah, I guess it's early in the morning for you, isn't it?
depends where you are, of course. And big
Well,
country.
in Australia, Evil Scooter says, you won't believe this, but James Vince has just thrown a promising start away for 22.
Oh, there's a surprise.
Who's he playing for? It's
Big Bash, isn't it?
That Bash. You be all over that, Andy? You
no,
like that kind of thing?
I think the Big Bash is losing its lustre.
Right.
The 100's going to defeat it.
This is well wide of the off stump. Archer dragged this, didn't quite have his optimum bowling position there, and dragged it well down the offside.
Well, according to Wikipedia, there are three main manufacturers of cricket balls in international matches: Kookaburra, Dukes and SG.
Yes.
Manufacture of the red or pink balls used for tests varies depending on location. India uses SG, England, Ireland and the West Indies use Dukes, and all other countries use Kookaburra.
Right.
So I'm not sure that's entirely true, but
well, it's the internet, so it must be.
Wikipedia.
Archer bowls full, in fact a full toss, and prodded at by Duplessis, finds a gap in the offside,
gets himself off the ball
and gets himself a couple of runs as Sibley chases that out towards the cover boundary. 2-2 Duplessis.
Not
and
very
he's off the mark, as you say.
athletically, I would say. I thought that was Denley lumbering after that.
Oh, that's not really nice thing to say.
And Sibley is not 34 years old.
Now Sibley's a big unit though.
He looks it, yeah.
Well, he's not in the team for his
I
fielding.
have to say I'm with I'm a bit with Hendo on Sibley. He doesn't look like a test batsman to me. I've only seen him in 2 tests, but
Archer ball towards short leg. Bairstow dives away to his right. I don't think it carried. He's not very close at short leg, but I don't think it got to him.
it's a no ball.
It was a big no ball.
Was
yeah.
it a big no ball?
Yeah, I think so.
It was off the glove, and it was wide of him, and it bounced about a yard
They
short.
would. So if he'd caught that, they would have checked the no ball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who are the umpires in this game?
I can find all these things out.
Well, Knackle's not here. He's not running in and telling us who the umpires are.
We have no notes.
Get a tweet in a second.
And their wives' birthdays.
I can go to the match and it will tell me.
Dr. Jonathan Lowe tells us John Lewis has never ever been open on Boxing Day.
No.
Right. Next ball's
Strike.
wide of the off stump and left by Duplessis. We're going to have a change shortly.
The umpires are Chris Gaffney
Gaffney.
and Paul Rifle.
Okay. So Antipodean umpires.
TV umpire is Kumar Dharmasena
Oh God.
and Adrian Holdstock.
Is he following
He's a
England
reserve
around?
umpire.
It's always Kumar Dharmasena.
Yeah.
Why do we keep getting him?
I don't know. Andy Pycroft is the match referee. There
Good
you go.
old Andy Pycroft, the Zimbabwean. As Archer in to finish this over. As well, again Duplessis doesn't move his feet at all.
That was
puts
quick.
the bat out towards it, and it dribbles its way to mid on the end of Archer's over. 39 for 2.
His foot went straight down the track there.
And we're going to have some drinks break.
Oh,
We're
we are
gonna-
going to have to get some tweets in then. Messages from Crick Tracker, all sorts of shit.
I'll do that in a second. Ravi has given us a Dr. Zhivago jingle. Somewhere Grunwald there will be games to play, although we won't be here on the final day. Does that? Unfortunately, I don't know the
song,
tune.
that would
yeah.
really help. Yeah.
Yes, let's have a look on Crick Tracker. Malcolm West. Oh, Merry Christmas, not Fred. Did you do that one?
Yeah.
And Paul Scrace says, Matt and Paul watching in Marul Bank, Victoria, Australia. Fantastic. Good to have you with us.
Yeah,
Lovely, lovely.
Australia had a pretty slow day, having been put in by New Zealand, but in a decent position, it's fair to say.
Yeah, only lost 4 wickets all day, didn't they?
Yeah, and Melbourne has been pretty slow and dead in recent years.
Well,
although it looked a bit,
it looked
more
a bit better
more
yesterday,
life,
didn't
yeah.
it? I mean, I briefly watched about 5 overs at about 1 o'clock in the morning. The ball seemed to be moving a little bit in the air. They seemed to be a little bit off the pitch. It's a quite grassy pitch. Didn't look particularly pacey, but
interesting decision to put Australia in.
Are there any other test matches going on?
Just the 2 at the minute.
Normally the 3 or 4 at Christmas, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Right.
India don't have any test matches at the moment, do they?
No, they just come
They
off
just
a
come off a
one-day series with the
one-
West Indies,
yeah.
which they do about 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Who else? Well, there's nobody else. Not Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan.
Is it Bangladesh are refusing to go to Pakistan to play the test matches, even though they'll go there and play T20s? And I heard that what's his name, Misbah, was pretty upset with them, quite forthright, which I have to agree with. If you're prepared to, I mean, who's just been there for a test series? 2 test series was played between Sri Lanka, who were the people who got the wrath of the reason that it was all called off in Pakistan, the terrorist attack that happened on them.
Yeah.
They've gone back there, played 2 tests, no trouble at all. I imagine the security is absolutely spot on.
Well, they're at
totally
so
OTT.
they can't be that good.
And Bangladesh are quite happy to go and play T20s, but not a test match. It seems a bit off to me, to be honest.
There's a lot going on to do with scheduling, which seems a bit odd.
It's all kind of people trying to squeeze more and more.
Well, no, Bangladesh said they're quite happy to play tests, but they want them in a neutral location, which seems...
Right, have we heard any reason for that? Or,
well, no, presumably they,
Bangladesh and Pakistan
security
were
reasons.
formerly the same country, of course.
Well, exactly.
For their civil war in
Doesn't always
1971.
exactly ensure good relations. Quite the opposite, in fact. Arthur Patricia, stop Sam Robsoning Dom Sibley out of the side just because you find him aesthetically displeasing. That's what.
Well, no, I mean Rory
I
Burns
think
was
talking
aesthetically displeasing,
more to me.
but he seems to have a technique that works for him. It remains to be seen. We've only seen a couple of test matches.
And there was that.
from
We've
Sibley.
had loads of batsmen who kind of
Well,
displeasing.
like
I mean,
Sam
who
Robson.
was the right-handed guy we had in the other summer? Who was from Essex? Was it Essex?
Yeah,
Wesley,
Wesley,
Tom
Wesley,
Wesley.
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
aesthetically displeasing, and he turned out to be not quite cut out for Test match cricket either. But
he's better than Denley.
well,
So's everybody.
I am to disagree with you, Denny.
Bell
I think
Drummond,
Denny actually has got quite good
Crawley.
technique. Actually, he gets across, gets his eye over the ball. Certainly better than I'd say Sibley or Tom Wesley. He's got shots all around the ground. He does seem to be growing into the role. And Adam Voges came into the Australian Test side at 8.36 and had an average of nearly 100 for a couple of years.
He's
didn't he?
averaging 30, so it doesn't
yeah,
always
but
work, does it?
As Hendo says, he's getting better. He's scoring more runs, seems more settled.
Anyway,
Yeah, by the time
after
he's
that
30,
extended drink
by
break,
the time he's 36, he'll be ready for Test cricket. Yeah.
Curran will be bowling. And he's up to the wicket and bowls, and it's on the hip of Hamza. It's turned down to fine leg. Archer eventually comes around to field. They take a single.
I'm not sure even Curran knows how much and if it's going to swing, which is good in one way because the batsman doesn't know if he's going to keep going past the bat or swing into him. But then again, it's just his lines. He almost bowled that one as if he was expecting it to go across, and then it swung in a little bit onto leg stump.
Well, maybe. I think you may be a little bit harsh there. I think the dangerous ball he has is the one that doesn't swing when people expect it to, and it's going away to the chance of an edge towards the keeper and the slips. As he's up to the wicket and bowls again, that one does go across Duplessis, and he leaves. It's a similar line to sort of an off spinner bowling round the wicket. If it turns, it's going to attack the stumps. If it doesn't, it's going to
Or the left arm spinner,
go past the outside edge, or preferably take the outside edge. But I think you're being a bit unfair that he doesn't know. I mean, even Jimmy sometimes he doesn't know how much it's going to swing.
Yeah, I mean that was possibly a poor choice of words. He's not sure at the moment exactly how one's going to swing and one's not.
As Curran bowls again, this does shape into Duplessis, who gets everything behind it and defends it back down the wicket.
We should say the GPL is open, and you have about an hour to go, so I'm not surprised none of you entered, but the pot is 53 quid, and that can all be yours if you enter, and of course it goes up the more of you enter.
You can spend it in the January sales.
Absolutely.
When you win it, which start in sort of early December
Minus
nowadays.
4 hours ago, yes.
Well, they were smart enough not to have them for the 2 or 3 days leading up to Christmas Day for a change.
They're so clever, aren't they?
Cynical.
Curran bowls a short ball which goes over the head of Duplessis, and it's called a wide by Paul Rifle. That was very short.
In a test match?
I don't know. Over the head is a wide now, isn't it? Even in tests. I don't honestly know. Well,
No,
it's a
that
good
was
3
pretty-
foot, 2
yeah.
foot over his head if he's.
Well, he ducked.
He
But
did duck a bit, but yeah.
we don't know where
Good
it would have
take
gone
by
past
Butler.
his. Yeah, it was a good take actually. Yes, Curran's an excellent bowler and Butler's an excellent wicketkeeper. As this is on the back foot, Duplessis to a shorter ball, and he just works it to cover. No run.
Mog says you'd like to think Ireland and Afghanistan and other smaller nations have heaps of tests lined up, but the ICC
But they
thinks they're shit.
The ICC doesn't schedule test matches.
Well, isn't it Ireland had
Ireland pulled out of a game with
The ICC hardly does anything.
That was a bit of a nerve from the Irish CEO, who pulled out of a test match that was scheduled. Was it Bangladesh or Afghanistan? I don't remember.
Sri Lanka, I think.
Oh yeah, Curran bowls and Duplessis defends, and he said he said, "Yeah, well, we're not. It wasn't part of the World Test Championship, so it was lacking a bit in context." When he was interviewed on Guerrilla Cricket, he said they asked not to be part of the World Test Championship.
Yeah.
So they've said, "Don't put us in the World Test Championship," and now he's pulling out of games, saying, "Well, it's lacking a bit of context."
Well, I heard
that's a bit
Sri Lanka.
naff.
Well, the original reason was given is they didn't have a broadcast partner, did they?
Well, we'd have done it.
Yeah, I mean, this was in. They were supposed to go to Sri Lanka, weren't they? Playing a test match out
We'd
there.
have still done it.
Yeah, I know we would. Someone would have paid us to go out to Sri Lanka.
Probably not paying all. We're probably not giving them enough money to pay all the bills for that.
Yeah, but to blame it on being not part of the World Test Championship when you've asked not to be part of it.
Well, it's standard, isn't it? Hope people forget what you said 2 months ago.
Curran bowls full and Duplessis check drives up to mid-off where Broadfield's the end of the over. 41 for 2. We're going to have a change. People, come in.
Yeah, well, we could do. Oh.
We got one. We've got David.
I need to go and visit my little boys' room. Someone can replace me.
Who else is coming in?
Rog.
We've got
Come and sit here, Rog.
Oh, looking very dapper.
Christmas jumper.
Christmas moustache. Is Hendo coming in?
Hendo's still doing some statistical analysis.
Oh,
and
good.
Will be
Yep.
with us
Yep.
shortly. Brooker 2 taking over for a while. Got Roger coming in all the way from Belfast. Just landed at Gatwick Airport. Big effort, Roger.
Well, good morning to you and to you, Andy.
And morning, Andy.
Lovely to see you.
Season's greetings.
And what a pleasure it is to be bringing this test match to you. It's a lovely day in Sydenham. 41 for 2 as Jofra Archer bowls, and that's a defensive shot from Hamza, and there's no run. 41 for 2. What have you made of this crucial first hour, Andy?
Didn't see all of it. I didn't see the first wicket because I was off to Tesco's to get some food. Priorities, exactly. But yeah, England should be happy. Although Hamza's looking pretty solid. Duplessis is old and wise enough to tough it out for a bit, and it's an interesting contest. 41 for 2.
And it's Jofra Archer bowling. He bowled second change today. Gets a lot of lift from that outside the off stump, but Hamza leaves it alone. Yeah, having seen the crucial first hour, I'd say that England haven't bowled that well. 2 batsmen really got themselves out. That very first ball from Jimmy Anderson tickled down the leg side by Dean Elgar, and then Markham had been chancing his arm. Was the next one to go, but he'd looked a bit iffy all the way through, was giving the bowlers plenty of opportunities. And here's Archer again. He's 0 for 7. He bowls, and that's cut
Shot.
away by Hamza. That's a very, very nice shot off the back foot through the covers for 4.
That went like a tracer bullet.
It certainly did. And, Knackle tweeted us earlier to remind us of Hamza's first-class record, which is very impressive. High score of 202 not out. No youngster. He's earned his spurs in the first-class game, which I understand is still a reasonable standard in South Africa.
Des, greetings from the beach in Mauritius. We'll be making alcohol-influenced GPL entries throughout the match. Good to hear.
Archer again. This one is well judged by Hamza because it was straight, but it bounced over the stumps, and it's a good leave, as they say. Archer, he was delayed into the attack to just his third over. He's 0 for 11, got a few points to prove after the New Zealand series. Sam Curran, of course, got the second wicket of Markram, who was caught Bairstow. Well, Curran Bairstow not keeping, but where was he fielding at the time?
Mid-wicket.
Shortish mid-wicket,
short
yes.
mid-wicket.
Just on that New Zealand series, hats off to everyone who came in here and kept the flag flying through the middle of the night for that series.
Absolutely right. Yeah, it was a great effort. Archer bowls that one. Again, good bounce from Archer. It's well left. And of course, we did Roger and I did the India West Indies series, the one-day internationals. We did three ODIs, and which was very popular with our friends on Quick Tracker in India. We're getting huge listenership figures out in India, and we welcome all the people who are watching us on
I hope plenty of you
Quick Tracker
joined us today. India not in action today, so why not join us? Although if you can hear me saying this, you already have.
And Archer again. Oh, that's a good ball. It beats Hamza outside the off stump. Archer getting some good pace and bounce here. End of a good over from Archer, but Hamza remains on 22, Duplessis on 2, and South Africa 45 for 2.
Yeah, Hamza looked a bit unsure what to do with that one. I think he was going to leave. It was one of those situations where he was going to leave it, then he decided he had to play it, and then got into a really no kind of position. Encouragement for Archer.
Yeah, there's a bit of pace and bounce in this pitch. Archer getting good carry. I think he'd enjoy a bit of zip in the surface. Probably why Root was encouraged to insert. And there's a couple of really soft dismissals have given England a real boost. Like you said, David, they hadn't bowled terribly well. I think Anderson and Broad weren't at their best. There could be reasons for that. Broad has been laid low with this flu that's infected most of the England squad, and Anderson, of course, coming back after a long layoff himself.
Curran bowls to Du Plessis, who's not in any hurry. As you say, Roger, he's prepared to tough this one out. And but Jofra Archer will take some encouragement from that over. Yeah, it was a strange retro feel to seeing Jimmy and Broady bowling together. We haven't seen it for a while, and it almost was like in a time capsule. With Jofra waiting to come on, and he wasn't even first change, second change, and he's generating the sort of pace that you'd like to see from, dare I say it, the opening bowlers.
Well, you're not going to get that pace from Anderson and Broad these days.
Indeed, yeah. Without sounding like that's covered up by Du Plessis and there's no run, without sounding like Michael Vaughan, perish the thought on a bad day.
Perish the thought, indeed.
He was made that point that, seeing Anderson and Broad in the same team now might be a luxury, as they both, less, not as, perhaps as lively and full of pace as they were. But,
well, given that they've gone in with 5 seamers, I think they're almost obliged to play both of them. If they have a more balanced attack, maybe it's one of them that misses out.
Here's Curran and Du Plessis with a very straight bat, but it goes out towards cover. So Curran providing that variation. Some would say he's lucky to be playing today, but he does provide that variation, and he always makes things happen, doesn't he? He's 1 for 6 today, and he's in his 4th over. So yet again, Sam Curran proving to be a useful wicket taker. But yeah, you've got Jofra, obviously slight point to prove after the New Zealand tour, but if you go back to the summer, who would have thought that Jofra Archer would be second change already in the England team, because after his performances against Australia this summer, as that's Du Plessis playing that defensively out into the offside. Do you know what I mean? We sort of feel, with that when there was a change and suddenly we moved on from Harmison and Hogarth. We got used to Harmison and Hogarth opening the bowling for England. Then suddenly it changed, and it was Broad and Anderson.
Well, that day's coming.
Yeah.
Before too long. I don't know how many more series Anderson's got in him. So that day is coming.
Here's Curran bowling again, and Du Plessis covers up. Very solid defence from Faf Du Plessis, who's got some work to do today as captain because there's 2 early wickets. Dean Elgar must be cursing himself. Very first ball, there was a delayed start, very freakish late start to the game with one of the stewards who was hurt in some way.
A photographer?
A photographer, was it? Yeah.
South African newspaper photographer.
Yeah, it was hurt before a ball was bowled, and there was a delayed start. So Elgar was kept waiting to receive the first ball. And the very first ball, he sort of little tickle down the leg side, and he was out. Platinum duck. And here's Curran again, and that's left outside the off stump by Du Plessis. So maiden over, 45 for 2 off 16.
We're talking about aesthetic players. Evil Scooter says, surely Gower's still young enough to play 20 more tests on an aesthetic basis, and he's free because he's not doing the commentary anymore. Evil Scootus also says, in regard to Ireland, Afghanistan, also they're getting next to no money to build their infrastructure. Here's another one. Colin Rosenthal is joining us from Schiphol Airport on the way to Glasgow to visit his mum. He apologises for the amount of obscenity on election night, which was another bit of extra coverage we did, wasn't it?
Oh yes, the election.
So South Africa 45 for 2. Oh, the band's going full swing out there.
Indeed.
South African band looks a bit more impressive than the usual England bands you see.
Excellent. Yeah, we got a bass drum.
Oh, mind you, maybe it might be a bit of a flash mob actually. Looking at them, might be a bit of advertising going on there.
Yeah, and then the barmaids are giving it back to them, like.
Yeah, except they're all like fat blokes scratching their ear instead of actually a band.
Jofra Archer again to this is well pitched up. That's played beautifully by Hansa. It was textbook cover drive through extra cover to the boundary.
So what have you been up to, Rog? It's been a while since we've seen you.
Yeah, well, I went to New Zealand for the first test.
Okay.
And some of those Barmy chaps that I got to know, they maybe do get a bad rap. I think once you get among them, they can be rather amusing. And they are very committed. I heard one of them. I did just get a touch of our rival TalkSport 2 this morning.
Archer, again it's pitched up, and again it's driven beautifully. This time he holds the position, Hamza. That's 2 successive boundaries. This one down to the long off boundary. Another lovely shot from Hamza.
And they sent a man up into the... Well, this was about 20 minutes before. This was before we'd gone on, so of course it wasn't. But they sent a man up to interview, and there's a guy there you might have seen. He's wearing a sort of bucket hat and a blue England shirt.
Right.
Kent Matt, is his name, Matt Goss. And he spoke very well on the radio, just saying how... and he's a fun bloke, actually. He's a life and soul. Good friends with Joe Denley, and he's a really committed supporter. And he comes up with a lot of nonsense.
Archer this time pulls the length back a bit, but Hans is still able to tuck it away down to long leg for a single. Just to interject some figures from Zabia Hansa and Zubaya Hansa, I should say. He's 24 years old. Obviously only in his 3rd test match, but he's played an awful lot of first-class cricket. Now, Andy, you have to be a good player to play 60 matches and average over 50. He averages over 50 with 11 centuries and a high score of 202 not out in first-class cricket.
He's certainly earned his chance. How old
Where
is he?
has he been? 24, yeah. Where has he been, you might say? With that sort of first-class record. Next ball's played out defensively.
Well, a lot of changes in South Africa, of course. They've now got, what is Smith, Boucher and Callis, a think tank now.
That's huge, as they say, isn't it? That's
certainly gone for people with playing pedigree.
And there's been some senior batsmen to replace it, but Amla and De Villiers are the big names that have departed the scene, and then maybe Hamza could be seen as the successor to those roles.
Yeah,
so
wonder why he's taken so long to break through. And this one climbs on Duplessis, and he wasn't in control of that. He got extra bounce from Archer, but it's gone down to the 3rd man boundary. It's evaded the 3rd slip and goes down for 4. I'd say that was a moral victory for the bowler there.
Oh, certainly.
It was certainly a forced error, as it were. So climbed on Plessy, tried to get on top of it, was able to, and it was Ben Stokes' 2nd slip who dived to his right, but it evaded him. A 3rd slip might have been handy there, potentially. That's one of the perhaps things from delaying the arrival of Archer. This next ball is driven by Duplessis, who takes his hand off the top hand off, or bottom hand off the bat, one of his hands anyway. They go through for single, and it's Dom Sibley does the fielding. So, well, Archer still takes some encouragement from that. 9 off the over, but he still takes some encouragement. South Africa 59 for 2, and hands are going well.
We saw a bit of split screen there of the 3 faster bowlers, Anderson, Broad and Archer, and I'm not an expert on anything, but especially not on bowling mechanics. Nonetheless, we saw they're all right arm bowlers, so we saw their foot that's planting on, Anderson and Broad both planting their left foot out towards sort of 2nd, 3rd slip, whereas Archer is coming more straight over his left foot at the batsman, and I wonder if that's a reason why Archer gets more pace.
And that's now through the gap by Duplessis. They're going to take 1 and coming back for a 2nd. This is off Sam Curran's new over. 2 runs to Duplessis just behind point.
And B, I just wonder if that's an effect of, bowling fast for 15 years and putting all those overs in, and maybe it's harder to get that angle exactly right. Maybe they're protecting their ankle a bit more these days, Broad and Anderson. You could hardly blame them.
No, indeed. Joe Root crouching at first slip, something to think about here. Curran bowls and back of a length, and Duplessis covers up. He's on 9. Hamza's moved on to 31, and South Africa, after that loss of the 2 wickets, are consolidating here at 61 for 2. England having won the toss and chosen to field today. What do you think about that decision, chaps?
I suppose when they were picking 5 seamers, they had to go with that approach. I don't know if not sure if Leach was just too ill to play.
He was, can't be indisposed. And here's Curran again. That's well directed, but it's turned away to mid wicket by Duplessis, and there's no run.
But obviously, like we say, there's a bit of pace in these pitches. And there's a bit of little tinge of green, bit of zip. Although Duplessis said that he would have batted, and South Africa have a great record in this track. I think they've won 19 out of 24.
They've only lost 2, and one of those was the Hansi Cronje test.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I never like to see a team go in without a spinner. I'm sure most of us would. We'd like to see a bit more balance.
That's angled across by Cowan. Duplessis doesn't have anything to do with that, but again, a bit of bounce for Cowan. Yeah, so you think it was bowling strength that encouraged England to bowl first rather than, dare I say it, batting weakness or any sense of frailty in the top order?
And maybe look to expose some of the weakness in this, supposed weakness in the South African order. I think it's always what do they say? 9 times out of 10, you bat the other time you think about it and then bat. I've been one for those maxims.
Curran, and that's well directed, covered up nicely by Duplessis, looking very solid. He's not in any hurry at all, and no need to be at this stage.
I think you were talking earlier on about players being ill, David, and whether they should tough through it. You might not be surprised to say I'm going to take issue with you there.
A lot of people have.
First of all, a couple of examples you gave. But collectively, Dean Jones and Graham Thorpe.
Yes.
That was finishing games that they started.
Indeed.
It wasn't. I think here comes Curran. Yep.
Wide. That's wide. It's right. It's not a wide, but it's angled across. It's almost a wide. And Butler takes it in front of first let. And Andy.
Yeah. The old school approach is, you should be busting a gut to play, and even if you're not fit, you should. Whereas
I'm old school.
Yeah. The new school, and I think more responsible thing to do is, if you're not really fit, you should be honest about it and let your selectors make a decision as to whether you should play 80% fit or someone else 100% fit.
So, but do we know what's wrong with any of these guys? There's a bug in the camp.
We don't as well. We don't know either.
Is it a head cold? Is it?
Well, a couple of them. There was some talk that Archer was suffering from this, and he might not play. But
the news was that Broads was bed bound for 6 days with this heavy flu. He just couldn't get out of. Was completely lacking in energy. So for him to come out of that is pretty.
Well, so we don't know. It's. Interestingly, it's going to be a bowler returning rather than the fifth seamer.
Well, I suppose Archer was hit for 2 fours in the last
3
over,
fours,
but he
I think.
looked dangerous.
One was an edge. Yeah. It was happening. He was getting the edge, but also Hamza was picking off a couple of balls.
It's the return of this man. Jimmy to Jimmy Anderson. First ball's down the leg side, a bit like his first ball in the actual match, which got a wicket, but this time Hansu did look to flick it down the leg side, doesn't get a touch on it, unlike Dean Elgar, and we're just seeing that ball on replay now on cue. It was, there we go, innocuous ball down the leg side. Jimmy Anderson's return to Test cricket, a wicket with his very first ball in his comeback. Shades of Ian Botham bowling, that return of Ian Botham against New Zealand, where he bowled a bit of filth and got a wicket with his first ball.
Out of condition.
He was. Here's Jimmy, looks in top condition, and he bowls that's well pitched up, and it's played defensively by Hans, who holds the pose. He's a much classical batsman, isn't he? Does look a good player. Where has South Africa been hiding him with such a good first-class record? I think it's obviously a sign of strength in the South African top order that he hasn't been able to get into the team. But given their recent record against India, certainly away from home, they've proved to be not such a strong unit. Anderson coming in now to in his second spell, he bowls, and that's angled in to Hanzo, plays it down defensively, and there's no run. 134 kilometres per hour for Jimmy.
That's about as much as you're going to get out of him in terms of pace, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not all about pace.
No, but Jofra was working up some pace there, and were you surprised to see him pulled out of the attack, Andy, or do you think?
Not particularly. As I say, after those 2 or 3 fours, England had been keeping. I mean, they were 45 off 15. They've been keeping it to 3 and over. It's ticked up a little bit, and they just want to try and exert some pressure here.
Here's Jimmy again, and that's flicked away nicely wristily by Hansa, who keeps the scoreboard ticking over. He scores his runs at a decent clip. That's gone down to long leg for a single. He moves on to 32, and the South Africa score to 62 for 2.
Well, Mahesh Kumar Siwa will be pleased, because he said, would you please tell us the score? We just did. And Raju Black also says hello on Crick Tracker. Nakul says South Africa have only not won 5 out of 24 tests at Centurion, 3 of those were against England. And England actually have a pretty good record in South Africa. They haven't lost a series in 20 years, although that is only 3 series.
And Anderson bowls. That was the one that comes in, but it's covered up.
Don't kick
Plessis.
the ball. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, if
Anderson.
I was making my debut for England, I probably wouldn't shout at Jimmy Anderson not to kick the ball, but I still think he shouldn't do it.
We got the debutant next in for South Africa. Sorry, Andy, please continue.
No, that was all I was going to say. Yeah.
The debutant, one of the 2 debutants in to come. One of them coming in next. That's Van der Dusen.
Although we did see both of them in the World Cup in the white ball team.
Pretorius is the other debutant, and in between them you have the wicketkeeper De Kock. So plenty of batting, and indeed Philander, no mug with the bat at 8. That's outside the off stump from Anderson. Swings away, end of that over. From Jimmy, it's 62 for 2 South Africa, having been inserted by England this morning. Hans is on 32, Du Plessis is on 9.
Old fart at play. Of course, Broad stayed in bed for 6 days. He doesn't walk at the best of times. But
very good, very good.
I was going to say something else. There's the GPL still. No, GPL's probably closed by now, isn't it? Or does it open for the first session?
Jimmy Anderson, 150 test appearances. He got presented with a special cap earlier today, or special something. Only 1 Englishman is above him. Test appearances, Alistair Cook, 161.
Do you think Anderson's going to get 12 more? I can't really see it.
Well, we'll see. Chander Paul, 164 for West Indies. But it's 2 Australians in numbers 3 and 2, Ponting and Moore. But Sachin Tendulkar with 200 test matches. Suspiciously called to a halt after 200. We waited a long time for his last century.
Suspiciously not called to a halt after about 185.
Yeah,
some people
exactly.
would say.
Yeah, we waited and waited for that last century, didn't we? The 100s.
Oh, that was.
Yeah, it just went on and on. It was almost it undermined some of Tendulkar's achievements to see him.
I think it
at
did.
the end. Yeah,
I think it did. And the way they cancelled a test match just so the 200th could be at home. They cancelled a test match in South Africa.
Yeah,
I
it
think
was all a bit
shenanigans.
Bit too much, wasn't it? His Stuart Broad back into the attack, and that is played as an on drive by Hansa. But this time Jimmy does get to it. There was one in the first over where he dived over it. First over from Broad, I should say. But this time he does palm it to mid-on and saves what would have been another boundary.
Looked like a little bit of a no ball as well.
Yeah, huge no ball. Saying about Broad and his illness, you notice, I don't know if you've mentioned it in the first hour of commentary, but he has like a sort of damp patch on his, probably a load of Vicks.
Like the footballers do.
Have you noticed on his shirt? Which it's just below this.
Doesn't look so attractive on a white cricket shirt.
Yeah. So it's Broad under weather, Stuart Broad. That one's pitched up, swings away. Broad looking a bit pale in the face, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Looking peaky, yes. Yes, peaky. Not peaky blinder, but just peaky. He's 0 for 11, he's in his 5th over. South Africa is 62 for 2. Hello to you wherever you are in the world. Let us know where you're listening to us from. Where are you spending the festive season? Yo ho ho. Rog, did you have a good festive
I did,
day?
thank you. Yes, very much. With my sister in Belfast, her 2 little boys, 8 and 5.
Oh, wonderful. Here's Stuart Broad. And that one, that's a decent ball. It leaves Hansa outside the off stump. And just did enough. Hansa played at that one. And goes through to the keeper, so Broad will be encouraged by that. But he's not. Yes, he's looking very sickly, isn't he? He's got that damp patch, well spotted, Rog. And but he's also, just snivelling a bit, and he's looking very, very pale. I mean, he's got the white sun cream, but he's not looking at his.
For someone who's spent so much time playing cricket in the sun, he does look rather pale.
Yeah. He's looking like someone who spent a long time in bed. And that back foot, Hansa pushes that out. There's no run.
Knackle does tell us that the only game South Africa have lost at Centurion to anyone other than England was Australia in 2013-14, when Mitchell Johnson took 22 wickets in the series. And UD tells us our Jimmy Anderson jingle is a must-play at Indian weddings. Not the jingle, I think the song that it's based on.
We might have to hear that one again before the start of the next over, Rog, by popular demand, because we've only had a brief snatch of that. Hansa waits for Stuart Broad, who bowls to him, and that beats him again outside the off stump. Hansa did pull the bat away, but very late. I think he did play at that. Would you say he played at that, Rog?
Yep, he's just hanging the bat out. Nice bit of bowling from Broad. It's back of the length. There's been a fair bit of lateral movement. And with this good bounce as well,
Oh,
And
yes,
that-
he's definitely played at that one.
Yes.
Yeah, he's even followed it. Yeah.
So 2 that Hansa's followed in this over. So all but the edge. So Broad getting close to making a breakthrough here. And it would be a vital breakthrough because there's a partnership developing by South Africa here. And Stuart Broad, that one is full and driven straight to Archer, who's just fielding at cover point. End of a good over from the sickly Stuart Broad, South Africa, 62 for 2.
Just you were asking about where's Hamza been, and of course that number 3 position was for so many years owned by Hashim
Yes.
Amla, and he played in the last time South Africa played home tests was that series. They lost 2-0 to Sri Lanka, and poor old Hashim had a bit of a rough time. He had a first bowler in the first innings
Yes.
of his last match, and then he 30 odd in the second innings. But in the first game, the famous Kusal Pereira game, he also got
Yes. Yeah.
a 16 or a 3 and a 16. So poor old Hashim didn't go out in the best form, and it seems like the right time to replace him.
Yep. Most people, apart from Sachin, don't get to choose when they go.
Jimmy Anderson again into to continue. Duplessis plays that defensively. We're going to get another little burst of
Yeah,
Jimmy.
why not?
Let's have a little burst of Jimmy, Rod.
It's Deba Brata Saha.
We did that feature during the ODI series, players who are known by their first name, and I think Jimmy more or less qualifies for that now. Nicely tucked away this next ball. This time it's Duplessis who does that, down to Curran at long leg. Yeah, we had a little competition on air where it's players who can be identified just by their first names.
Well, he's not got too much competition. Jimmy Neesham, maybe. Jimmy Adams. Not playing anymore, of course.
Jimmy Adams, the other one.
The other one,
Okay,
the one
yeah.
from Hampshire.
Yeah.
Is he still playing?
No.
No, he's
I
gone
think
join
he
the
went into
coaching staff.
yeah. JHK Adams.
Hmm.
Jimmy Binks, to complete your top 5 Jimmys.
Yorkshire keeper.
Yeah.
Jimmy Parks.
Oh yeah. Was he a Jimmy?
Not really, no.
No.
Jim, just always a Jim.
Yeah.
Always a Jim. Anderson, who took that wicket with his very first ball, is looking for his second wicket. That one angles in to Hansa, who feels a lot more comfortable playing against the ball that swings in than the one that moves away. Cause
Looks it, yes.
yeah, he's got that nice sort of what's it called? A nice base when he plays.
Yeah, we're.
You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Fred was saying, or the Bear, I think, was saying before about. It's not that he backs away, but he doesn't seem to just hang inside the line of the ball, which is obviously going to work better when it's following you in rather than it's nipping away.
Good insight there from Andy, as always. Here's Anderson, wide of the crease. That one does angle in and nicely driven by Hansa, but Jofra Archer does a decent bit of fielding, and there is no run. The England players are wearing black armbands in honour of Bob Willis, of course, who left us. R.I.P. Bob Willis. Very sad day, and Sky Sports did a tribute to him before they went on air today.
Did you know him, David? Did you ever?
I did meet him.
Yeah.
He was a very, very friendly fellow off the camera, as they say. Very friendly and very amiable. Here's very humble. Here's Jimmy, and outside the off stump, that's the one that swings away. But this time, Hans is not tempted. It was just a bit wider.
Yeah, I thought it's been sweet the way it's kind of what we were talking about. They were all calling him Bobby, all his pals, cheers Bobby, and it sort of gives another side. Okay, everyone knew Bob Willis, the sort of demonic bowler and then the trenchant critic, but then all these nice tributes of sort of referring to Bobby, and sort of just for me who never,
I've always felt he kind of, as many pundits do, he kind of backed himself into a persona that he felt he had to live up to.
Indeed, that got a bit of a caricature towards the end, didn't it? And tucked away by a single from Hamza. Spent his end of that over. He spent his last hours with Paul Allott, not the person I'd choose to spend my last hours with, but 21 overs, South Africa 64 for 2.
Well, I've probably got to move on. Mog says, let's not forget Aussie superstar Jimmy Mayer. Hendo has come in and pointing and rotating. And
yes.
I gather I'll come out, yeah? Yep. But South Africa are 64 for 2 after 21 overs. England getting a wicket with the very first ball of the innings, and then picking up another one through Sam Curran. And at 30 for 2, they were on top. Now I'd say it's more even, Hendo.
Well, I said at the beginning I was a bit perturbed by this decision to put South Africa in. There may be the thought that they were in a bit of disarray, as Dave called it earlier, and so to get amongst them early on might be a good thing, might lay down a statement, as it were, for the series. But I think Hamza's batted pretty well. Du Plessis on to 10. It's Hamza facing now, just 2 slips in a gully as the bear comes in alongside me. On jingles in behind this delivery is Hamza as Broad continues into a 6th over. And shifting across the room, it's Rog. Have we talked about your moustache so far?
Before Christmas it was meant, I got some Ned Flanders pushback from Messy Jazz, which...
oh, right, you've been wearing this look for a little while.
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't... I mean, look at the...
Roger's facial hair is always changing.
Yeah, I like to mix it up.
It is.
Keep everyone guessing.
It's fun, it is, absolutely. Broad in again to Hamza. Hamza's forward in defence, foolish delivery. Straight back to the bowler. Yeah, 64 for 2, half an hour to go before lunch. I mean, if they get to 80 for 2, then you say that's not bad when you've been put into bat, is it?
No, it's not at all. I think we've had a few chances. A few balls have skewed off the edge and gone over the slips and not carried.
But has it been... It hasn't been good enough to justify putting them in, has it?
No, probably not. But then you look, I mean, like Hamza, that shot there, he's playing miles away from his pad.
Broad in, again, a little bit back of a length, turning him front on just a shade as he steers into the offside. And there is no run. 64 for 2. Hamza has moved on to 33. Du Plessis has 10.
Well, Messi Jez is coming on the GPL.
Yeah.
He's got 273-839-3303-313 and 323. You know Messi Jez, he does the threes. So if you want to join him, there's plenty of space in between there. And you can win the pot, which started off at 53 and now be 56 quid. For the day, you've got 20 minutes to enter.
Broad trundles in again. This one he turns nicely off his hip as it comes into him. Timed it really well. Bairstow's charged after it, pulls it back, finds that he's got no one accompanying him, has to do all the work himself, gets the throw in flat, and it is a no ball as well. South Africa to move to 66 for 2. That's a tight one.
It is a tight one.
But no ball it is.
Pretty sure there was a bigger one in his previous over, so maybe...
That wasn't given?
Yeah. So you know how umpires like to redress the balance.
It's Broad again in to Hamza, and Hamza leaves this one outside the off stump through to the keeper it goes. Now, on your travels, Rog, have you been to Centurion? Have you been to
No, I've never been to South Africa.
Ah, right, okay.
No, I had Katie Walker desperately trying to convince me to go out for this one, but I couldn't justify. She'll be in Cape Town, our old friend Katie.
Indeed.
I do have some pals, my pal Gareth Griffiths, who occasionally tunes in, my crazy Welsh friend who lives in Cyprus. He's there enjoying it, enjoying the grass banks, and then there'll be thousands more Barmies showing up for the big one in Cape Town.
Oh, absolutely.
Billy and his trumpet will be out there.
Ah, excellent. The thing I love about Pretoria is that sort of flyover, just going past the behind the glorious grass bank, driven beautifully by Hamza. He did get his foot right to the pitch of that one, and he steers it away through extra cover for a very pleasant four. Oh, the other thing I saw was Dutch Bird Kate seems to be going out. I mean, she goes everywhere, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does go everywhere.
But what amazes me is she seems to fly in, a long flight. I mean, it's still quite a long flight to South Africa. It's about 12 or 13 hours. It's something like 27 hours to New Zealand. It seems like she pretty much gets off the plane and goes straight to the ground. How does she do it?
Yeah, we saw it. I was on the same flight as her to New Zealand.
That's right.
To Auckland, and we...
Oh, edged it and caught low down. Broad has a wicket. Hamza goes. Ben Stokes clutches on, and South Africa have lost their third wicket. So maybe it wasn't such a bad decision to put them in. That's so annoying as a batsman. You just played this glorious shot through extra cover, and you're just sort of preening and enjoying it, get that lovely warm flow of, I don't know what it is, adrenaline going through you, and then suddenly you find yourself on your way back to the pavilion.
Well, I was just about to tell you his first class average is 50.65.
Well, that has been mentioned 3 times already this morning, Bear.
Oh, has it? Well,
Yeah. I did mention it. Then Knuckle came in on the act, and
they're checking for a no ball, but it wasn't a no ball.
Oh, let's please. You're right though. He does get horribly turned around a little bit there, doesn't he? He's
he plays away from his body.
He may be one of those guys who found out pretty quickly. You're right. He's sort of almost edging back towards his leg stump and fishing for it in the end.
Well, his trigger movement seems to be unlike everyone else. His trigger movement seems to be his foot edges out slightly
towards
leg.
Square leg. Yeah.
Which says he's scared.
Well,
are you scared?
I did say he looked a bit reluctant when he had to come in second ball of the game.
Yeah.
He'd rather sort of thought he might have a bit more time to settle down and have a cup of coffee or something. But there you go. Any tweets?
Yes. Mog says we're talking about Jimmy's. He says let's not forget Aussie superstar Jimmy Marr. Do you remember him? He was a Queensland opener. Did he might have played it? He might have played a test.
Never heard of him.
Here and there.
That doesn't surprise me, Bear.
But I think he was a left-hander. We could maybe get a Jimmy XI by the sounds of things. We're up to about 6 or 7, I'm sure. I might get to work on that. Tim Everingham says, "Morning, Gorilla. Thank you for the Boxing Day company as I clean my Parisian apartment. Ooh la la. And return to Australia on Saturday. You're helping cure my lack of cricket here."
Oh, good.
Can I ask what the pitch is like? You can.
Well, we said mottled, but it seems to be. I mean, there is a little bit. Certainly seems to be some seam movement, but also it does seem to be coming on to the back quite nicely. Certainly early on, there were a couple of nothing more than defensive pushes by Markram and Hamza that just sped away through mid-on for 4. Anyway, Rassi van der Dusen has come to the crease. He's got a jingle that goes like this. Duplessis facing up to Anderson, and he pushes firmly, a foolish delivery, square on the offside. There is the horribly maligned Joe Denley. Fred was laying into him this morning. We thought he must be a Dawid Malan fan, and he was upset to see Denley doing quite well.
Yeah, I like Denley.
I quite like Denley. I think he's done everything that's been asked of him, and he's a battler, isn't he?
Yeah, he's better than Malan.
Well, he's certainly not outside the 15 best players in county cricket, I wouldn't have said. Anderson finds this one moving in to Duplessis, who felt for it a little bit, but has got a thick outside edge, which has gone between second slip and gully, and down to the third man boundary for one of these. Yeah, it looked as if he was actually almost trying to leave it at the last minute there. Didn't quite snatch the bat out of the way of it, possibly just as well.
I think Anderson and Broad have come back well, haven't they? And it serves us right. Anytime we kind of doubt their worth, they prove their class.
Indeed, this again, he's getting this in-swinger to go a little bit. He didn't really use it early on this morning, but he just seems to be encouraging it to come into Duplessis. Defends this one into the offside. And there is no run. 75 for 3. Duplessis on 14. Van der Dusen has just come to the crease, making his debut in Test cricket, although we have seen him play ODI cricket, and of course he was in that World Cup squad. Not one that covered itself in glory from South Africa last summer.
Yeah, although he did pretty well.
He did well, yeah. Yep, he did very well.
Impressed me.
Yep. It's Anderson comes in again, bowls. That one just held its line. It maybe just drifted away ever so slightly, and this time Duplessis was looking at the possibility of driving and then just decided to let it go at the last minute, which was probably wise. There was a little bit of a grin from bowler to batsman, as if he'd both aware of what was going on out there. Yeah, he did well, didn't he? He got a 90 odd. Was it against New Zealand or Australia? I can't remember.
Got some runs against England in the first one, didn't he? It was sort of their last hope as they gamely tried to chase down England's total.
No, he looked quite impressive. Anderson in again, bowls on the line of off stump and right forward, holding the pose. Duplessis ball runs into the covers, and there is no run. Have we said hello to people on Crick Tracker today?
Hello,
we had a
Crick Tracker.
big audience earlier on, I noticed. Also quite a good audience on YouTube, which is all well and good. I mean, let's face it, we are now the premier channel covering this match, I would say.
Absolutely.
If you do happen to want to listen to Matt Pryor, then
And Goffey.
Harmy. Harmy. This one just swings ever so slightly away, left alone by Duplessis through the keeper. There is no run. At the end of the over, it is 75 for 3. More tweets.
L'Expert at the good expert says, don't forget Jimmy Cook, youngsters. Another good opening batsman, Jimmy Cook. And what happened to his son? Do you remember
he played in the last tour, didn't he? The last England tour out there. He was opening the batting, wasn't he?
What was his name? Simon Cook.
Simon.
Yeah.
Was it Simon or
Steve Cook?
Steve. Yeah.
He seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, he's disappeared.
And Linux Lay says that stash needs more wax and upturned tips, Kaiser style.
You going to work on that? That's good.
Possibly. Yeah. James Humberstone, evening greetings from 35-degree Canberra, shrouded in bushfire smoke.
Oh, gee.
Finally got the kids down. Time to listen to you guys for a few hours. Hello, James.
Hello, James.
I did actually. You may have remember that when Messi Jez comes on, I always ask him for the sort of fire risk, rather jokingly. But of course, it's not a joke at the moment.
It's not a joke. Jesus, the whole
dreadful.
country's burning.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it's crazy.
Meanwhile, they've got a prime minister who goes, "Nah, there's nothing wrong with climate change,"
and then buggers off to Hawaii. Broad into Markram, who's not Markram, is it? It's Van der Dussen. What am I talking about?
Markram was out a long time ago.
Defended back to Broad, and there is no run. Broad is now into his 7th over. He's got figures of 1 for 18. Got rid of Hamza in his last over, and so it's looking a little bit better for England, having put South Africa into bat. But what a glorious day it is there. We discussed earlier that it was 45% humidity, which isn't high. Broad in again, full. Checked drive from Van der Dussen up to mid-off, and again there is no run.
Need to get this man out, Quinton de Kock out, and then I think you're kind of through.
Well, he's down to Philander, but if you remember,
Philander has been a pain in the arse.
Well, he got a couple of 50s on the last tour of England, didn't he? And batted probably better than he bowled. And
it's his last series, isn't it?
It's his last series. It's a shame actually, because he's got a fantastic average. I think it's 22. He's not going to go on longer, but he is, I think, 34, 35 now. Defended straighter ball from Broad, trying to bowl the leg colour there, didn't really get any purchase, and man comes in from mid-wicket to field.
Mog said, do you know what I find frustrating about you guys? Disrespectful even. No coverage of the world's greatest blue water yacht racing classic, the Sydney to Hobart.
Well, I mean, it's
didn't even know what's going on.
It's awkward hours, isn't it? It's awkward hours to do sailing.
Comanche is my pick in that one.
Is your pick?
Yeah. Look,
of course,
Comanche will come good.
There's normally sort of a few disasters in that race, aren't there? Outside the off stump, he went wide on the crease this time, Broad, but didn't bring it back enough for Van der Dussen to have to play.
Isn't it a dangerous stretch of water?
Pretty dangerous. Well, do they go down the Southern Ocean? Don't the Southern Ocean's terrifying.
Yeah.
I've been in the Southern Ocean.
Have you?
I went in an enormous inflatable speedboat. That's amazing. If you go, have you done that?
No.
Oh, you can do it in Tasmania. You can go on this trip. I think it's a place called Kettering, and you go on this, and they take you out, and then suddenly they do this thing where they literally tip the speedboat onto its side to go between rocks at incredible speed. Amazingly exciting, but also pretty scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Left alone outside the off stump by Van der Dussen, and then goes down the pitch to have a little bit of a prod.
Whilst all the great white sharks are following behind you in case it tips over you.
Do you know, it's funny you should say that. I didn't actually think about the sharks. I mean, it's freezing cold. Well, I say freezing. I mean, freezing for Australia. It was probably about 15 degrees or 16 degrees when I went. But I didn't know they were going to do that. I didn't know they were going to tip it on its side and take it between rocks. But, I mean, the margin for error, it's very tiny.
Slim.
Very tiny indeed. Broad in again, down the leg side, and flicked nicely by Van der Dussen. He leant into that, and he's
no one out there.
Creamed it really, timed it beautifully. That wasn't a good ball. It's 4 runs.
In the name of God.
13th boundary of the innings, 79 for 3.
We just got quite a racy tweet from Bob Jim Bob.
Racy?
Yeah, and I looked at his account, and I think maybe the less. It just said hey, but as I looked, I think Jim Bob was trying to solicit some.
I don't know who was trying to solicit
out of us gents.
Oh,
But sorry, Jim Bob, you are blocked because we're not that kind of show. As much as Bear was talking about his wish to get the cock out. The next Leah says England will horribly collapse, horribly crashing out for less than 50, with only Denley getting to double figures, again proving he should be captain. Mark my words.
Yeah, you could be right. No, I saw Arthur Shear was tweeting earlier about we were sort of slating Dominic Sibley ever so slightly earlier, and it was saying, just because he hasn't got a great his technique doesn't look brilliant. It's not so much that he's an ugly batsman. It's just I'm not. It's his stance that worries me.
Well, yeah, totally. Me too. It's very open, isn't it?
It's almost as if he can't play through the offsides.
Well, that was the problem with Wesley and some others too. It's
change of bowling. Archer's back into the attack, and that's worth a shout. Might just be a little bit high.
Really?
Well, I would think they would have a little look at that, wouldn't they? It's been given not out. Are they going to review it? 9 seconds, 8 seconds, 7 seconds. You're going to have to make it quick, Joe Root. I don't think he is going to. No, he has a little word with Rory Burns, and not sure why Rory Burns is involved because he's at Gully. I won't really have been able to see it that
height,
good.
Maybe
for height. It was a darn good ball. He's gone deep in his crease. Ooh, height.
Too high, yeah.
Height is ended up hitting back leg, but quite high, yeah. I mean, those ones could just clip. It's the kind of thing that if it's been
given out,
and the batsman reviews it, you think, well, it might just be clipping. But
quite a bouncy pitch, though.
Yeah.
Well, this man's bowling. Let's give him another jingle because I quite like his new one. Describe.
Defended. Well, I say defended. Hit on the pad again as he tried to play this into the onside. Well, he
in the nads.
Well, not so much. I was going to say it took him on the inside part of the thigh where there wasn't thigh pad, so that probably did hurt a little bit. A little rasp. Just a shade.
Seems to be enjoying the wicket, though, isn't it? I mean, I think he got a bit depressed in
New Zealand, yes.
The pitches were so slow, but there's a bit of bounce and pace here.
But that's not a good ball. That's down the leg side, way down the leg side, and du Plessis leaves it alone. Yeah, and only picked up 2 wickets on that tour. In that,
well, he should have had 3. So
well,
the worst drop you'll ever see.
Yes, that's true. But it was quite interesting. His average went down from 24 to 27 in that one tour. Well, so he's got a bit to do, hasn't he? I mean, I still think he's a class bowler. I don't think that
well,
really
he's only played 5 tests.
Yeah. 6, I think it is now.
It's going to fluctuate massively, isn't it? If he gets a whole stack of wickets here, it'll go down again.
He's in again. Bowls are right up there, and comes off a thick inside edge as du Plessis comes forward. As Bairstow is the man who's fulfilling that role at short leg, does the fielding.
We have a new first-time listener.
Yes.
In Brighton, it's Mizza Tyke.
Hello.
And Mizza Tyke, you sound like our kind of person. They love their profile. Love cricket, wonderful tasting beer, heavy metal music, and Barnsley FC.
Well, up to the point when you said Barnsley FC. Although they're beginning to come good this season, aren't they? After a tricky opening period, onto the back foot goes du Plessis, plays it up to mid-off. There is no run, up to 139 Ks. That from Jofra Archer.
And Mizza Tyke says, first-time listener in Brighton, desperately trying to find ball by ball, as no TMS. So pleased I found you.
We are ball by ball. That is what we do, amongst many other things like play you jingles and read out your tweets and I don't know what else do we eat pastries. What else do we drink? A lot of beer. The bear hasn't actually started yet, but I don't know what it'll be like by 3 o'clock. Ducking under this one, du Plessis, and comfortably goes through to Butler. Were you on the beer yesterday, Bear?
Yeah, started drinking at about 11 o'clock in the morning.
Did you get any sort of whiskey as a present?
Yeah, I got 3 bottles of whiskey.
3 bottles of whiskey. That might last until about 2 o'clock.
I got 3 bottles of whiskey and a drawing tablet that I can hook into Photoshop. It should be quite entertaining.
Ooh, sounds complicated.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, for me. Anderson 1 for 24, Broad 1 for 22, Curran 1 for 8. Archer is the man who is wicketless at the moment. He's bowled 5 overs. He's gone for 25 runs. Probably bowled a little bit better than that would suggest. The wickets went down at 0, 32 and 71.
James Hummerstone back with it. Yes, having put your election special behind you, feel free to get stuck into the fuck knuckle we call PM.
But it's happening everywhere around the world, isn't it? It's like, it's can we find you a really, really awful candidate, and then why don't you all vote for him, which seems to be happening. Outside the off-stump, Broad continuing, and left alone by Van der Dussen. Through the keeper it goes.
Although the talk of Belfast over Christmas was the Arlene Foster news. Have you seen those?
Oh, don't say it.
Oh, I know.
Don't say it.
Of course I won't.
Good, I'm glad to see that. The only thing I know about that was I just saw that Christian Janssen, the TV doctor, might be sued for slander.
Tweeting it, yeah.
For tweeting about it. But, so tell me off air. I don't know what the actual story was. I'm sure it'll be entertaining if it's got Arlene Foster involved. Broad striding in, bowls. This one keeps a little bit lower as Van der Dussen goes onto the back foot, defends up to mid-off, and there is no run.
Yeah, just that's Arlene Foster, if you all want to Google her out there. Arlene, leader of the Democratic Unionist Party. And feel free to Google forth.
Yeah, she was. The only good thing about Boris Johnson is that he annoyed her. That's the only thing that he's done that's been of any use at all. We do politics, of course, as well on this show. There you go. We had an election special, if you didn't listen in. Here comes Broad, bowls, onto the front foot goes Van der Dussen. Van der Dussen has this habit now, he pushes up to mid-off and he sort of strolls down the wicket as if to say, I really should have a run there, but you're probably not going to respond to me, are you, faff? So anyway, he remains on 4. Du Plessis on 14, 79 for 3.
Mog says, didn't they warn you to bring spare underwear on this boat thing, Hendo?
Well, no, funnily enough, they didn't. Although there was a boy who was sick. Fortunately, the wind was going behind him and I was in front of him. So that helped me, maybe not some others. Broad, wide on the crease, full, and shoveled almost up to mid-on by Van der Dussen. He looks quite confident in himself, doesn't he? He sort of holds himself well. His body language is good. So he's a little bit like Labuschagne in a way, who again got runs, didn't he, last night?
Another dogged. Batted for a long time.
Yeah. I'm glad I actually went to sleep in the end because Steve Smith batted and got 67 or so in the end.
Well, you know what? He hasn't got a fucking ton though since he's left Arsenal.
I know, it's bloody typical, isn't it? Absolutely typical.
Scored a fucking shitload against us, and they can't score any against anyone else. It's typical, bloody typical.
That's the other thing. If you're the first time listener, the bear sometimes swears.
Quite often, actually. And it gets worse as the booze goes.
We
are on an early morning series, so the booze won't start till after lunch.
Not quite so bad. So bad.
And you should know about us that we came up with a term for this new fielder that's just gone into place.
Oh, indeed. Nicely defended.
Just to him.
To that man. Who is? Would you like to describe?
Well, we described as an on-Hayden.
An on-Hayden. Do you want to describe why he's an on-Hayden?
I suppose because England placed a man at sort of quite silly mid-on. In the
deep silly
mid-on, yeah. In 2005 to get in Hayden's eye line, and I remember Matthew Hargard knocking him over first ball, and then he was caught there once as well.
He was caught there the first time they put him there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He drove it because what they reckon is he drove on the up a little bit, and it travelled a bit in the air.
Defended a ball just outside the line of off stump to extra cover. Positionally, he's actually very irritating for the non-striker because he's basically in front of the non-striker where he wants to run, and if you are the non-striker, that is very, very irritating. That's the end of the over. 79.
It's a lunch.
It's the end of the session.
It's the end of the session. It's time for me to go. I've got to go and do a day's work. Would you believe it? I've also got to look after Grubby's cat. So there's lots of things to be done. But it's been a quite good morning. 79 for 3. England put South Africa into bat. That we were a little bit surprised by that. They went in with an all-seam attack. South Africa gave debuts to 2 of the 6 new men who were named in their squad in Rassie van der Dussen and also Dwayne Pretorius. 26 overs bowled in the morning session, 79 runs, 3 wickets. First ball of the day, would you believe? Jimmy Anderson back into Test cricket after a 5-month break. Down the leg side, load of filth, edged by Dean Elgar, the man who's batted or carried his bat 3 times in Test cricket, was gone. First ball of the series, Markram fell to Curran, and then Broad picking up Hamza just a couple of overs ago. 79 for 3, 1 wicket apiece for Anderson, Broad and for Curran. Archie yet to get on the scoreboard. Markram made 20, Hamza 39, Du Plessis on 14, Van der Dussen is on 4. And we'll have a couple more tweets and then it'll be time for a break. You'll be listening to highlights throughout that.
Yes, not Jim Reed at Ayrshire Brogue says, enjoying the wall-to-wall Boxing Day cricket, spent the day listening to Oz NZ on the ABC, now listening to the dulcet tones of the Gorillas to lull me to sleep. Well, stick with us, Jim, maybe throughout this test match. Or not Jim, even, not Jim Reed.
Not Jim Reed.
Don't confuse him with Jim Reed.
Well, I'll try not to.
Knuckle tells us Faf does get hit in the Nutbush city limits a lot, so much so he commissioned his own triple-strength box, named the Beast.
Beast. You wouldn't want your box to be called the Beast, but you might want what's inside the box to be called the Beast.
Which, yeah, and then Adam at Adam CF replies to that, the ultimate cock blocker.
Indeed.
And Mog asks, did you ever play that jingle about the bear and whiskey? Maybe we could do now, Bear. I know you've got something lined up.
I think we did. Yes, we did. That was right at the end of the New Zealand series, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, of course we did. I don't think anyone was listening at the time because it'd been rained off by that point. But we'll maybe dig it out later when he's gone through a couple of fingers of one of his bottles.
So there's a couple more here. Just Gareth Stevens at Save Me Some Salad says no TMS coverage. So give these guys a go. They're excellent, and he retweets us. Thanks, Gareth.
That's very nice.
And another one, the Duke of Umbridge at live from Gates of Hell.
Duke of Umbridge
at Ice twice, all capitals.
Oh, brilliant!
It says, "Dear," and he addresses us. You can like to see that in a tweet. Dear at Gorilla Cricket.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The Duchess and I are very pleased to have discovered your refreshing approach to ball-by-ball commentary. And we're delighted to say that the underfootman has managed to find a way for us to listen to it in the Bentley as we potter around the estate.
Nice.
Well, it's always good to find some royals that've got, got good taste, isn't it, basically?
Yeah.
And don't go off with strange characters from America. Anyway, that's is that it?
Yeah,
yes, that's it. Well, it's great to hear from the Duke of Umbridge and also Save Our Cellar. Those are two of my favourite tweet handles already. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll leave you in the safe hands of the Bear, Rog, Andy, Fred and Dave Brooke, and until then, we'll be back in about 35 minutes.
We will, and in the lunchtime we're gonna play you our podcast that we did for our South Africa versus England preview to see how correct we were about all sorts of things. And here it is. We'll see you in 35 minutes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Gorilla Cricket South Africa Series preview. There are many and varied podcasts you can listen to these days on Gorilla Cricket. This is the one, especially for a 4-match series that is coming up, starting next week. I'm Gorilla Hendo, and with me to discuss what's been going on in the cricket world, particularly around England and South Africa, are the Bear.
Hello.
Hello. Tony Bishop 1.
Hello.
And all the way from a sunny South Africa, it's Mpo, your friendly sports guy. Hello.
Hello, guys. How's it?
Well, it's miserable here, as we were just saying to off air, but things can only get better, surely. Now let's have a look at this series. I mean, for me, a South Africa series is something that I really look forward to, especially in a away one, because I always feel if England do well, it's a good sort of barometer of how England are. But England haven't been doing that well in New Zealand. But these are two teams in transition, Umpo, aren't they? I mean, how are you viewing this, to just looking ahead to next week? You know, especially in light of what's been going on out there.
Yeah, well, in light of what's been going on, it looks as though we are on a hiding to nothing.
Oh.
That's how the sentiment has been throughout the past couple of months, especially after India. Mm-hmm. We always enjoy an English summer. A summer where England come down, because the obviously the Barmy Army, there's banter, and we kind of figure out where, as you all rightly mentioned, it's a yardstick as to where the team is. And England are coming down as world champions, and it would be very nice for us to stick it to the world champions. The only problem for England, I think, is that in the last week, their nemesis, being Graham Smith and Mark Boucher, are now at the helm. And I think now there's probably going to be a very, very competitive summer, and might be a good one for South Africa compared to the sadness we were feeling about 2 weeks ago.
Well, this to me, this is all fake news, isn't it, really? Because basically, you've pretended to get rid of your chief executive or to suspend him. Loads of people have been resigning, and that's just been an excuse to bring two of the most obdurate people, as far as England supporters are concerned, back to face us with sort of about a week's notice. It's a bit like Brexit being done very quickly, isn't it, really? I don't know what the Bear thinks about this. Do you feel like we've been conned a little bit by them getting Graham Smith and Mark Boucher in?
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping actually this time we get the wood over Graham Smith. When South Africa went to India, they got humped, but then everyone gets humped in India. It's just the way it goes. And as series go on, you get worse, and you generally lose the last test worse than you lost the first one. So that's where it goes. I don't exactly know where South Africa are, but they don't sound like they're in a particularly good place.
Well, that's what we thought. But now they've brought in Smith and Boucher.
I don't think that makes any difference to the play.
You don't think it's going to make any difference? What about you, Tony? I mean, do you not just sort of break out in a cold sweat when you see the size of Graham Smith's bat and the size of his shoulders?
Well, I do, but he's not playing.
You might do. You never know.
I think the interesting question for those of us who sit outside of South Africa but have a sort of passionate interest in its welfare is the state of the level of the game beneath Test cricket, because your Test team is founded upon the players that you bring through, and I think the issues in South Africa probably go deeper than who they can rustle up for the Test team. I mean, I'm sure Mpo has more to say than that, but yes, there is the issue of quotas. That takes some managing, doesn't it? To put something right, you have to have a period of almost over addressing a problem before it swings back and you achieve equilibrium. Obviously you look at the South African rugby side and you see, well, look at what they've just now done, but I think if you scratch away at the surface of what you see that is going to play against England and look at where are those players coming from and how many players of Test calibre are being sort of forced out of the country to play elsewhere, that I think is where the weakness is. And you can have the best, you can replace your administrative setup, but it's not going to fundamentally address that problem.
Well, let's look at that, Poke. Maybe you can come back to us on this. We were looking at the squad announced yesterday, the South Africa squad, I think it was yesterday, and 6 players who've never played a Test before. But what struck me when I looked through it, although they've got really good figures, actually you look at their averages and some big scores on there if they're batsmen, they're all 29 and 30. Now, is this sort of because there just isn't the talent coming through, or why have these people been ignored up to now? Has South Africa batting or bowling been so strong that these guys haven't been needed before? Is this a kind of panic measure?
Look, I think it's largely that. It's because we've had a period where you've had Jacques Kallis, Smith, Boucher, AB de Villiers sitting in a settled South African lineup for 5-6 years. So for instance, as Tony speaks about the coal packs and all the guys who were leaving, a lot of the guys who were leaving are guys who were injury replacements or replacements to somebody who was a mainstay in the side. For instance, Duan Olivier was in the side as an injury replacement to Vernon Phelan.
Right.
And Vernon Phelan is back now, so he wasn't going to get a game.
But if you look at the last game at Centurion,
yes, he had a great tour against Pakistan. But if Duan looked down the year, he knew that possibly against England he wouldn't play. And even with a guy like Carl Abbott's role was as the guy who replaces Dale Steyn. But Dale, when Carl took his cold pack, Dale Carl didn't necessarily know that Dale was going to get injured again. And it's about securing the financial futures of these players, and largely it's because there's not a lot of money in South African cricket. And the allure of playing in the county setup for a lot more than what you get here in South Africa, and for a lot longer. Because the only guys who make the money in SA are the guys who actually play Test cricket for the Proteas. Yes. And onto the guys who were selected. Yes, they're journeymen, and yes, they've done an incredible job, and it's just the system recognizing the best guys who have performed throughout time. We've got young guys coming through the system, and yes, we are bleeding a lot of young guys coming out, but it's very hard from that perspective, especially because as a 19, 20-year-old coming into a system where there's only 6 franchises, it's really hard for them to get a game, because I think 10 or 12 of them might get a franchise, but the rest of them will probably have to go play in the lower leagues in the UK.
So basically, what you're saying about these guys, the Peter Milans, the guys coming into the team, how are they making their living when they're not playing in South Africa? Are they playing league cricket in England?
they as franchise players, yes, you can live an okayish life, but there comes a point where if you're not necessarily in the system, and for you to get a Kolpak, you need a cap, an international cap for South Africa. So there's a lot of guys who know they're good enough to play for South Africa who will wait and sit,
right,
and wait for an opportunity to get that cap and then get the Kolpak, just like necessarily a guy like Duan who received his opportunity and then he got the Kolpak. And a lot of guys, David Visa, Marchand Delanga, they also just had to wait for their cap, whereas some of the guys who have British passports can go straight away. But here in South Africa, if you are just a normal franchise player, you earn. It's a proper living. It's not the excessive wealth that everyone else sees, and sometimes you might need you essentially need an IPL type of contract to get you over the hump and not necessarily worry about going and playing in the UK, but sometimes you kind of have to, which is why a lot of the players during our off season go play the lower leagues in Lancashire and everywhere else to try see if they can't become that overseas professional for a county side, or just necessarily get a Kolpak once they get the call up for the Proteas.
Yeah, I suppose also, I mean, if you think about all these new guys coming into the team, and you're saying that if they get a test cap, they then sort of become a man who could take the Kolpak shilling, as it were. I mean, that's a big worry in general, isn't it? Because everyone who's coming through is going to take, if they can, take this opportunity.
It is, but with our man Bojo at the helm, closing out Brexit, that's going to obviously be a plus for South Africa if the Kolpak is allowed, it effectively is stopped with the whole relationship with Europe. That will then obviously force a lot of people to try either stick it out here in South Africa and make ends meet here, or try and get a British passport and as an employee of the UK try and play a cricket there. So Brexit is very important for us, but with the with what's happening in the boardroom, there's no time to be able to fix this. That's the only problem. So with all the boardroom shenanigans, we can't necessarily have an answer to this.
So basically what you're saying is that all this talk of Russia and America being involved in British elections is nonsense. It's basically South Africa.
Yes, South African cricket team.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely. They're doing a very good job on that.
Let's bolt the stable door.
Indeed. Let's move on. The Bears having to do some various things around the room to make sure that we stay on air. But let's look forward to the actual matches and you look at this England team. We look at this England team. We're not incredibly confident about it. We've just seen it struggle a little bit in New Zealand, I think it'd be fair to say, and they're playing their first warm-up match today. I'm going to put this to Tony and the Bear first. We just had a quick look at the scores, and there seemed to be a run of England players getting a few runs and then retiring. Now I'm wondering whether this is the best policy. Dominic Sibley retired out for 58 today. Joe Root retired out for 72. Now, Joe Root's just coming off a double 100 in a test match. Dominic Sibley hasn't got a run. Why wouldn't you let Dominic Sibley go on and get 100 in that game if he could?
Well, I would have done.
Exactly.
I think it's madness, and the problem is it's a 2-day game, isn't it?
It is, but if he can get 58 and then Joe Root's still got time to come out and get 72, don't you stay with Dominic Sibley and get his confidence high? I mean, 58 is not going to get you that much confidence. You might feel that the ball's coming onto the bat reasonably well.
Well, it is also, don't forget, it's a two-day game, so you've got 4 kind of games in total, both at the same ground, rather strangely.
Well, no, you get 2 innings. You get 2 innings and 2 bowling.
Right?
Well, no, exactly. But in two-day games, you're going to get 2 batting innings and 2 bowling innings.
But don't you, when someone's showing a bit of form and got a 50, don't you, and they haven't established themselves in the side, don't you give them the chance to go on?
Yeah, you try and answer the questions that are open, and one of the questions that is open is Dominic Sibley a test quality opening batsman?
Yeah.
So yeah, having got himself to that score, retiring him out doesn't seem to be very logical. I'm agreeing.
You're with it.
I'm with you.
With me on that. What's your feeling over there, Umpo? I mean, does that seem a little bit odd to you?
It doesn't. This normally happens when touring teams come down to South Africa, even when South Africa plays overseas. you just need to give all your batsmen a chance to bat in the 90 overs that are going to be played today. And so that's where the apprehension comes in allowing people to retire out. Not out. The other thing is that you also, obviously, because you will bat one day and you'll bowl the other for a 2-day game. You also got to consider they've got the SAA game on Friday, which is a 3-day game. And I think that's when guys will be allowed to bat for as long as possible, because that's 2 innings each in that 3-day game.
But my point would be that a man's got himself in. Don't you sort of allow him to expand his confidence? I mean, he might go out on Friday morning and get a first ball.
You're playing semi-professionals here. It's not not to put any stick to them or disrespect them.
Right.
But it's not. It's a lot of the semi-professional guys. It's a step below our domestic league. It's not a domestic 11s.
So we're talking about a much stronger team will be put out on in the game that starts on Friday.
Yes, because Temba's captaining that one, and you've got Reza Hendricks. You've got a couple of guys who are going to be playing England in the next 4 tests in that side as well. And all the newbies might also be getting a game as well.
So do you think we're going to see some of these guys that have been selected for the test squad? Do you think we might see them in the South Africa 11 on Friday?
Yes. That South Africa A team has Temba Bavuma. It has Reza Hendricks, as I'm trying to get it up for you now. A lot of the up and coming guys who are making a step up into that protest setup, looking for an opportunity, will be playing in that game. It's an interesting one, obviously, because of the way in which it's set up, because you've got Christmas in between, and also the fact that the South African team is only meeting tomorrow to start preparing. And so those are the things which you'll still get. You'll get more of a flavour of what South Africa is going to bring to England in that match. So Temba Bavuma's captaining, Nandre Burger, who's a great left arm seamer. Tianus de Bruyn's been dropped from the South African team. Yeah. He'll be playing. Reza Hendricks, Peter Malan, who are the 2 guys in, Andile Petluwayo as well. And a lot of the young guys. Obviously, we know all about Dane Pete, but Luto Sapamna is a really nice up-and-coming fast bowler. He's about 21 years old. Glenton Steeneman has had a great start to this year's domestic league. And Piet van Biljon, he's like 29, but the man's been averaging 50 in his entire domestic career, first-class career. So those are the type of guys you'll see. And it should give England a flavour as to what this new dawn that I'm calling here in South African cricket looks like, with necessarily Graham Smith at the helm of everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's right. I mean, he's got such a. The word I was going to use, and it's probably not right, is overbearing. But you do feel as if he has got that sort of authority as a person as well as a player. Now, you said at the beginning, England are coming down here as world champions, and that suggests to me that perhaps you're giving England a little bit more credit than they deserve. I don't know what the Bear and Tony think. I'm going to ask them about this England squad that's going down. We're going to have Jimmy Anderson back. How confident do we feel that he's going to have a real role in this?
Well, am I confident we won the World Cup in one-day cricket? This is Test match cricket. We still don't really have a settled top order. I think bowling looks better with Jimmy back in it. I mean, there's experience there, but Jofra had a tough time in Kiwi land. One thing I'd like to ask is what the pitch is going to be like. I mean, they've been. I mean, the last Test match cricket I saw in South Africa was, I didn't actually watch the game. She lost to Sri Lanka, which was quite amusing, obviously. But the games against India, the pitches were really spicy, and are they going to remain that way for this Test series? Because I think your bowling attack is better than your batting, and I think actually England's bowling attack is better than their batting in the main. And I'd expect South Africa to go that way, in which case we're good to get some short tests, but it'll be fun cricket to watch.
We'll come back to the pitches, but Tony has something he wants to
I'm Bear was expressing huge confidence in our bowling. I'm a little bit concerned, I think, to be honest. I think if you take the bowling unit one at a time, Jofra Archer, one of the big questions, or challenges set for him in New Zealand was, on a comparatively hard wicket with a Kookaburra ball, can you make it work in our favour? And that is still very much an open question, because frankly he didn't.
No.
I don't think he bowled particularly badly. Sometimes he used his one-day skills and one-day variations to do some quite controlling bowling, but he never really looked like he was in control of he wasn't on top that often. So I think he's an open question for one.
One thing I would say about that is that the pitches in New Zealand were so slow. I don't expect them to be anywhere near as slow in South Africa.
Are we expect? We might as well cross that bridge while we're near it. What do we expect from the pitches in South Africa for this series, especially Centurion? That's supposed to be quite bouncy, isn't it?
Ooh. Oh, that's going to be so bouncy. So bouncy.
Sweet. Is it going to be quick though? Is it going to be quick?
We tried to give the Indians a bit of a similar spicy wickets, and that nearly backfired in their favor. However, I think they might be slightly flatter.
All right.
Just to try and allow our batsmen the ability to be able to put pretty much a 300 plus target. I think for me, if South Africa can put 300 in the first innings, England will really have a tough time getting to that total, as we've seen throughout the Ashes and in New Zealand. I think that's ideally what they want. However, because the pitches were spicy largely because of Otis Gibson and Faf du Plessis, with Otis wanting to show our fast bowling stocks to the world. And enable that environment for Kagiso and the guys to win off it. However, with the team that has very good fast bowling, I don't think that'll be the best way. I do think there'll be a lot of bounce on all our wickets. I think PE might be the flattest one you'll get, and Cape Town will be flatter, but there'll be a lot of bounce. Your wicket keepers will be getting the ball up past their shoulders.
Well, what about many wicket keepers?
That's normally what happens up here. And the swing and the seam, there's not going to be a lot of it because largely we don't get that unless if it's overcast.
Right.
Largely it's the bounce, the extra bounce that gets the batsman up here on the high fault especially. And if you're a Vern type bowler or Jimmy Anderson type bowler, I'm just not sure how Jimmy works with the kookaburra. But it's not going to be as prodigious as Jimmy would have wanted. It's not going to be hooping around corners. If you guys are hoping for that.
We always hope for that. But
we always hope. And that was one that whilst I hear what the Bear says about the slower wickets in New Zealand, that does still therefore remain an open question, I think, with Archer. I think if you look then at Mark Wood, he has the pace, but he has the fitness.
Well, he's
and consistency.
He can't play till the third test, by what I heard yesterday.
You can look at Ben Stokes as who's in there, but he's being managed. He's being definitely managed. Jimmy Anderson. Well, there is a huge open fitness question on a hard, unforgiving pitch, and very much, as Mpo so rightly said, there's the question around his kookaburra capability, to be alliterative. So when you look through that, you could basically, and if you want to talk spin, because I think Supersport Park does take spin, certainly later in the game. I don't think Leach has yet to prove himself as a match winner. He seems to have taken on more the role of a containment bowler. So when you stack up those, I would say there's fairly large questions against literally every member of that England bowling attack.
Man, you're falling into the Hendo pessimism camp.
Well, no, I'm counselling. You asked me the question.
Come on in, Tony.
And the question
very
was, I'm already feeling miserable. I don't think I'm even going to watch it. It's going to be that awful. No, it isn't. But genuinely, the question was, was I confident in the England bowling attack, or firing on all cylinders at their very best? Fantastic. But I think there's massive questions about each one to be answered. New Zealand certainly didn't answer them. So I think the South Africa series, for that basis alone, don't forget as well, Centurion is a massive fortress for South Africa. I think they've won, isn't it? And Poe will tell me, but isn't it, out of 24 tests there, haven't South Africa won 19?
Wow.
I mean, they're jolly difficult to beat there, and that's the first ground up. So, believe me, if people are looking from the outside and kind of going, well, South Africa's having all of these problems and what's going on behind the scenes and there's a flood of players out. The fact is, on their own patch, against a team that's got so much to prove, I think it's going to be, I'm with the Bear, I think it's going to be interesting. It might be spicy and lively, but don't for any second assume it's going to be some kind of English walkover. Quite the opposite.
I don't think it's going to be English walkover, but you've got to remember this bowling attack is pretty much very similar to the bowling attack that went out there 3 years ago, and we beat them 2-1.
We did.
The batting is different, true. Not actually, we've lost Alistair Cook, basically. We still had the same problem at opener with him. So it isn't that much different to the team that's gone out now. I think South Africa weaker. They're trying, they've got 6 new players in a squad that, as Hendo says, are 29. If they're 29 and they haven't broken into Test cricket, that may be partly down to Kolpak, but the point is they haven't broken in until they're 29, which says they're not top of the heap or never were.
Well, even with Kolpak, I mean, you would think Kolpak's taking more people out of the system.
Yeah.
So you would think there would be more opportunities, and they're only making it now.
Exactly. So I mean, maybe Graham Smith knows something, and he does have the hoodoo on us, but that smacks a bit of desperation to me. Not, England have done it in the past, don't get me wrong, and the squad we took out to New Zealand wasn't the greatest squad either, let's be honest.
No, that's true.
So, it wasn't in the World Test Championship, so we decided to give a load of people who had a really long summer a break and try out a bunch of new players. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'm wondering, we sit here and we look at test match test grounds around the world, and we're always quite alarmed how empty they appear to be. How much interest is there in this series? Has what's gone on behind the scenes in the boardroom, has that turned people off cricket, or has the fact that suddenly Boucher and Smith are involved, has that re-energised it a little bit, Umpo?
So let me tell you, the test in Newlands was sold out about a month ago.
That's all the English people,
so
isn't it?
yes, when the players walk out, it'll be a cauldron
yes.
of Barmy Army fans and whatever South Africans could manage to get the tickets.
Right.
But even at Centurion, you'll have a fair crowd.
Right.
Yes, the fans were not necessarily happy with what was going on behind the scenes in the boardroom, but with the new changes that have happened over the past 10 days, essentially, starting with the press conference last week Saturday, and Graham Smith getting into work, it's set us up for a little bit of a glimmer of hope. I think if you look at the way the fans were looking, yes, we're in a transition period as the team itself, which is why England should beat us. But I think they'll struggle this time, largely of the reasons you've named. Your top order is something that is making me salivate for Kagiso on its own. But you'll get the fair crowds. Everybody loves this rivalry between us. The tickets have been going. For you to find the ticket, it's pretty hard right now, actually. And so that from that perspective, you'll be seeing the best of South Africa in terms of the crowds and everything else.
Is there a knock-on effect, just in sport in general? The fact that South Africa have won the Rugby World Cup, does that energise people more in South Africa to be involved in the cricket?
Yes, and largely that's one of the reasons why we had a lot of people looking into the stuff behind the scenes, the mess that was happening behind the scenes, because of what happened with the rugby and the disastrous World Cup that we had in England, the worst ever World Cup we've had. And so people were asking questions. People were trying to find out, because straight after the World Cup we were moving back into this director of cricket structure that you guys had.
Yeah.
And nothing was done. Even after the India tour, and largely a month after the day after the India tour, we won the World Cup.
Yeah.
And so those were the questions that kind of ended up stoking a lot of people's ire and a lot of the journalists. And once the journalists necessarily started opening up and allowing the fans into what was going on, change necessarily started happening. Once the journalists got kicked out of stadiums, that's when the South African cricket changed for good. Because I think we were going for a hiding to nothing. At the beginning of the month, we didn't have a selection panel. We didn't have a director of cricket. We had an interim team director. You call it interim coach.
Yeah.
But we never had, and we were playing a T20 tournament, the style of the IPL and the Big Bash, obviously not that big. So we weren't even focused on Test cricket. And so now things have changed. What I can tell you now is that yes, we've got problems. Yes, if I look at this team now and I'm looking at it on my screen, everyone has a point to prove. Everyone's at a low point in their career. I think Faf, in terms of his captaincy, is at a low point.
Right.
Temba's got questions with his whether he needs to be in the team or not. Zubair Hamza is new. Aiden Markham needs to answer to all his critics, even though he does average 40. I think it's 48 at home.
Well, if he comes back, if he comes back like Ben Stokes after smashing a dressing room door, he'll be doing okay, won't he?
he was fine already because he averaged 48 at home regardless. So it was just the away form that was the problem. Dean Algar, he's been the mainstay with Quentin de Kock, similar to, because if I look at the English top six, it's similar in terms of there's two guys who've been there, who've done the job, and then all the other guys are just bit parts.
Yes.
From the bowling front, I think if the one guy I know who can bring the fire into Kagiso again is Graham Smith, right. With the help of Mark Boucher, and so I think you're going to find the Kagiso is fired up. Obviously the problem is the third seamer for us. Who it will be the extremely pacey Anouk Nokia, or Bjorn Hendricks, which is similar to what I think Joffre is. Joffre's going to enjoy boiling here. I think his pace will cause a lot of problems for us. This is the one place in the world where if you can push it up to about 150 kilometers per hour, you'll get wickets. And so we're worried about Joffre on our side. But as Mark Boucher said on Saturday, beware the wounded buffalo in Africa.
Oh, I am.
Literally, that's what we are.
I saw that yesterday, and you don't want to get a buffalo in a corner because once that happens, you're in a deep trouble.
Well, actually, one of the things then that makes this series, I think, quite mouthwatering is that you've got two sides, both have massive things to prove.
Yeah,
we've already run through my view of certainly of the English bowling attack. I mean, you're talking about the top order, Sibley. He retired today on 58, I think.
Yeah.
Noticeably, he faced 200 balls and was in for about 150 minutes. So,
was he really?
So they do talk about time in the middle as well.
That's fair enough then. Okay.
So as soon as I saw you look on your face when you went, what's he talking about? Blah, blah, blah. But I did have a quick look, and he was certainly getting time in the middle. But he's got to prove Test match quality.
Well, I think, isn't this why they've taken Zach Crawley? I mean, I saw a piece, I think it was Athers wrote in the Times a few weeks ago, or a couple of weeks ago, that he would be surprised if they took Crawley, even though they took him to New Zealand, because he thought that he would be better served going to Australia with the Lions, because down the road there's another Ashes coming along. But I think they're still so uncertain about Sibley that Crawley is there as a backup.
He's on 22 at the moment, just as I look down the scorecard, just to give you a right up to the second update. Yeah, no, I think that's true. I mean, England's points to prove for different reasons. From a South African perspective, and Poe has beautifully eloquently sort of given us a full background on it. It's very much about the shifting sands of change in the game as a whole, and how they've got to come through that. From an England perspective, it's simply just getting the right mix of players to prove that they can effectively do it. And for them, don't forget, this series is a dress rehearsal for what for Australia. Remember, everything in Test cricket for England, I think almost forget the World Test Championship. What is the challenge? And the challenge for Joe Root is be the captain that wins the Ashes down under. That's your goal to focus on. In the same way as Owen Morgan was thrown the mantle to say, win us the World Cup, they're taking the same approach, and now they very single-mindedly, it's noticeable when you look at the squad selections that if you're going to shift players around and change, people are being rested for those ODIs. They've got, of course, they're looking at the World T20s, then of course they're looking at the Test matches. Out of 3 formats that will be played in South Africa, the one that will be sacrificed slightly, I think in terms of preparation, selection, everything else, is the ODIs. England, make no mistake, I think see South Africa as the dress rehearsal for Australia. It's the kookaburra, it's hard wickets, it's fast, pacey bowling.
Well, that's it. I think they always see South Africa as the most similar conditions to Australia. However, as we noticed last time when we went to the Ashes, there were fucking 4 drop-in pitches that weren't as hard and bouncy as everyone thought they were going to be. Melbourne was turgid. And actually South Africa offer more sporting wickets, so it's not necessarily that. And therefore I think pace and bounce have more effect in South Africa, as you can get wickets through them, whereas actually we found in Australia you have to be bloody quick to get wickets out of pace and bounce, because the wickets were slow, and it seems to be a problem world over, unless you have the Duke ball like we do here, which offers swing, which is something different, which gives us a massive advantage over everyone else. These problems persist everywhere in the world.
Is this not time though? I mean, we talked about Australia. I mean, this is getting off the series that's coming up, but we talked about Australia using the Duke's ball in their domestic cricket before coming over here. is there a case for us using the Kookaburra in the early part of the county season, especially when those pitches are spicy?
It's been made, I think. That case has been made by the ECB, and I believe it's under consideration.
I think it should be under consideration, but I think the pitches would be so different that I don't know how much you learn from it, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you might learn how to get it to do something in the air, for example, but you're never going to get it to scuff up in bloody May, so you can reverse.
Well, I was going to say, it might stop the light. I mean, I know he's not playing anymore. It might stop the likes of Jesse Ryder getting 6 for 30 or something like that.
Well,
in
it might
April.
well do, yeah.
So I can understand that being a useful idea. Well, it's interesting, Poe, you talk about Jofra Archer, but in general terms, is there any sort of sense in South Africa that this World Test Championship has any interest at all? I mean, I was looking at the table the other day. India have won 7 out of 7. England are 5th, and although it may not have an effect at the moment, when we get down to sort of the final, and the final is going to be in England, isn't it? As far as I know.
Yeah.
From an England perspective, I think we're going to be pretty cheesed off if we're not in the final. I mean, what about South Africa? Is South Africa putting any store on the World Test Championship?
Head coach Mark Boucher on Saturday said his goal is the World Test Championship.
Right. Okay.
So we're going to give it a right royal try.
Yeah.
Not sure how we will stack up as we go through. But obviously we started with probably our 2 toughest teams.
Yeah.
Yes, we do play Australia later on, but I think our team will be a lot more settled to go into Australia. And the 2 best guys you want to travel to Australia with will be either head coach or director of cricket at that time. So not worried about them.
Mm-hmm.
But the inclination from Mark to say we're going for the Test Championship, which means that we'll be competitive. A lot of people thought this Test series would be, if we lost this Test series, everyone had said no, but we're rebuilding. We've had so many corporate issues, so we expected to lose. But I think now he set out the stall to say, no, we're actually going to try and compete, and we do need points on the board. It's not nice looking at that table and there's nothing there. It's going to be tough, I think, from a South African perspective, to try and usurp the top 2. I think being right now, I think Australia's number 2 and India's number 1.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously going to be. I think we essentially lost the Test Championship final right in that first Test series against India.
Yeah.
We needed to get something. But look, it's everyone's not caring about that, because right now you've got England at our shores. That's what people always grew up following, as to who do we have at our shores. Not necessarily there's this bigger thing in play. Largely it'll just be for the team's backroom staff to just make sure that the 4th Test, if it's already a 3-0 loss, that the 4th Test actually means something, rather than nothing.
Well, that's why I think Centurion is going to be such an interesting place to start, because South Africa are so strong there. It'll be a real barometer. Bear's right. Yes, England may have won 2-1 last time, but the one they lost was at Centurion, where they got thumped, I think, by about 280 runs. So
yes, and you
it's a
started
tough old
in Durban,
start.
where you won.
Yeah.
And South Africa hasn't won in Durban in years.
So to use an old English TV analogy, you're playing your joker early by
in a way, yes.
playing at your best ground right at the beginning to provide the sort of the ultimate challenge. England thought they were doing that, by the way, against Australia by starting at Edgbaston. It didn't work for us.
Well, it normally works for Australia in Brisbane.
But it works for the Aussies in Brisbane. The other question, I think, it would be quite interesting to hear what we all say about it. I would love to look Ashley Giles or any member of the ECB in the eye and said, right, for Christmas right now, I can give you one of 2 things. You can either make the World Test finals, but you're going to lose the Ashes to Australia, or you're going to win the Ashes in Australia, but you ain't going to make that final. I think I know what the answer is.
Ashes every day.
Thank you. There's one vote. What about you, Henry?
Well, I think it's one of those with regard to what we had this summer with would you rather win the Ashes or would you rather win the World Cup? Well, of course, when the World Cup came along, you want to win the World Cup. As soon as the World Cup's over, we've won that. You desperately want to win the Ashes as a fan. I mean, I don't think you can necessarily separate them. And I think the thing is, though, if you have a World Test Championship final in England, English supporters will go and see it, whoever is in it.
Well,
and that's the difference, perhaps, with if it was staged in other countries.
Well, I think. The thing is, we've got such good diaspora here. I mean, India probably going to get there because they're playing loads of tests at home.
Well, it's looking like it's going to be India, Australia, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
already.
yeah.
Well, I'd do
fancy
something incredible. To
Australia thump India at home.
Yeah, but what about in England? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, but they've both got good seam.
Well, that's true.
Lineups, haven't they? So,
Well, two sides who have maximise the value of their home advantage.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
And I'm not saying England don't, because we talked about the Duke ball,
Yeah.
the early season and all that kind of stuff. But
Welcome back.